City of Spartanburg, today is officially your day. Baseball is back in the city of Spartanburg. Yeah, there are already a couple of games in, and yeah, this team is absolutely tearing the cover off the ball. But today, for the first time in decades, you get baseball, meaningful baseball, back in the city of Spartanburg. Today is Hub City Spartanburgers home opening day. I guarantee you people are already crowding into downtown Spartanburg. Well, they might want to, honestly, because parking is a bit of an issue. But you should be excited about this. I don't know. I assume tickets are sold out. They're probably sold out for the entire first series.
No tickets today.
God, this is going to be awesome, man. I can't wait to get down there. I know. You and I are there next week, Thursday and Friday. We'll be doing the show Thursday there. I think you're off on Friday.
I am
next week, so I'll be solo next Friday. But you and I will be there together for the first day of NFL draft on site at a baseball stadium. It's a little wonky. It's a little weird, but we're going to make it work, and it's going to be an absolute blast. Tolos, join the stream on Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube. Just search for The Fan Upstate. Start texting in now your thoughts on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line at 844-326-3663. But tonight, again, opening day, home opening day for the Hub City Spartanburgers at Fifth Third Park in downtown Spartanburg. I know you, Cole, as a lifelong Spartanburg resident, born and raised there, you're probably geeking out of your mind today for this.
It feels almost surreal, right, in a way, because I've never experienced baseball growing up in Spartanburg. Now, we've talked about this before, and we talked about this on, I believe it was Thursday or Friday with Matt Smith of Sports Talk. Back in the day, they had the Spartanburg Phillies.
Yep.
I wasn't alive, so I didn't experience the Spartanburg Phillies. However, people who were alive will tell you the Spartanburg Phillies had just unreal support, the best support you could ask for. Spartanburg has been a baseball town. It has baseball tradition, much like its NASCAR history and tradition. It's the same way with baseball, having the Phillies there. And when they lost the Phillies, man, it was a long drought. It was a long drought for Spartanburg. And then Greenville got the drive, obviously, and Spartanburg fans had a drive to Greenville. But for baseball to be back in Spartanburg tonight, you're right. It is absolutely phenomenal, a little bit breathtaking. I'm going to try to swing by. It'll be 7:30 or so before I get there, but it's going to be a packed house tonight.
Stephen Webb, Stephen, in a weird way, this proves that you've arrived, right? This proves that you're a big deal. But Stephen Webb says, be careful out there. Tickets are being scammed for the game. I have a good friend who dropped $100 on tickets, and they were a scam. That's awful, Steve.
No, that's tough.
That's bad. I watched it happen once at a game. It was an Upstate basketball game playing James Madison, final game of the season, winner, whatever, got something special, series sweep, whatever. And there was a girl who was trying to scan her ticket to get into the stadium, and it was a scam ticket. She couldn't get in. And she's like, I just bought it right down there at the bottom of the steps. They're like, yeah, sorry, that's not a real ticket. We can't let you in. Be careful. Buy your tickets from a reputable source, which is directly from the Hub City Spartanburgers. I know people out there. It's really sad, Cole, to see whenever there's a big event, you got people out there buying up, big blocks of tickets, trying to turn around and resell them. Heck, I mean, there's all kinds of Masters merch on Facebook Marketplace right now. People just go out and buy thousands of dollars worth of merch and then take it home, put it on Facebook Marketplace, try to upsell you on that kind of stuff. And I'm sure there's all kinds of fakes there too. So be careful, be careful, consumers.
Shout out to Tolo JD, not JB. And I love this comment. I think this is the comment of the day. I put it right back on the screen for you watching. JD says, Steven, can we trust what you say? You're a flip-flopper. Tell him, JD. Tell him.
Yeah.
He did a flip-flopping back in the NCAA.
I would ask Stephen Webb, what show he finished the wire-to-wire bracket challenge supporting, but it doesn't matter because you screwed us, Stephen. You were on their side, then you jumped to our side, then you jumped back to their side. You're dead to us, man.
How about this comment, man? This is pretty cool. This comes from the OG Tolo JB on the YouTube stream where you can watch the show. He says, JB says, my grandpa took me to Duncan Park when I was a kid to watch the Phillies. man, have I missed that, and have awesome memories with my grandpa. Looking forward to taking my family to see the Spartanburgers. And that's what I'm talking about, man. People don't realize the passion for baseball, like growing up as a kid. And obviously you can play baseball and still have that passion for it. But there were a lot of kids like JB Diesel that grew up going to Spartanburg Philly games.
Yeah.
And loved baseball because of that. And there have been generations who have not had that experience because there has not been baseball in Spartanburg. So now those out there who have young kids who are just born, right, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, they're going to be able to grow up going to games in their own city. And who knows what that'll do for them in terms of their baseball likability.
Help me out here because I'm not that familiar with the history of Spartanburg. Where was Duncan Park? Is it in the location of the same field?
It's still there. Duncan Park's still there. So Spartanburg High School plays their games there now.
Okay.
Duncan Park is.
I hope it's got a little bit of a renovation because I'm looking at photos of it and it's not in the best shape.
No. The answer to that is no. So a couple of years ago, few years ago, do you remember when they tried the other baseball league in Spartanburg?
Wood bat leagues?
Yeah, whatever it was. Yeah. That didn't make it, right? It lasted a couple of years. They were the Spartanburgers, right? They played at Duncan Park. Duncan Park's a mess now. It's still there. Spartanburg, like I said, Spartanburg High School uses Duncan Park that's their home field for baseball. So it's still there, but no, to your point, it's old. It does not have renovations. It is a old baseball park. That is where the Phillies used to play.
Well, the Hub City Spartanburgers playing well right now. So you got that in your back pocket too. They're a really good baseball team that can put up some runs. They put up 14 runs on the road at Wilmington last Wednesday. They put up 6 on Tuesday, 7 runs in the game prior to that. So they can score. They can actually win also when they're not playing particularly well. We saw a game last week, Cole, where they won 3-1 in late innings, a tight ball game up there. But what's really exciting, Cole, and I don't know how much you and I, mostly you, had to do with what I'm about to tell you, but Hub City Spartanburgers sent us a press release earlier today revealing just the magnitude, gigantitude of the burger combinations that you can make inside a Fifth Third Park. Hub City Spartanburgers and OVG Hospitality are excited to unveil an epic new culinary experience at Fifth Third Park, the Burger Topping Bar, with 101 different toppings, and you can mix and match all your accoutrements to build your perfect burger with over 2 million combinations.
You can mix your
Think about that burgers. Accoutrement. It's French. Accoutrement.
I didn't know. Charcuterie. What?
Well, there's probably some of that too.
Yeah.
You can probably put that on your burger as well. So Tolos.
This is what they were telling us about that they hadn't unveiled yet. Remember
this is the big reveal.
Yep, this is
okay, how about that? Tolos. I'm going to give you right now an opportunity here in this first segment of the show to tell me. I'm going to give you 5 items. 5 items that you can use to build your perfect Spartan burger for the first game that you're going to go to at Hub City, for the Hub City Spartanburgers at Fifth Third Park. I'm going to give you 5. You can't put all 101 of them on there.
No,
unfortunately, you can't do that.
It'd be funny to try.
I'm going to make you narrow it down to 5 Tolos. So 844-326-3663. What 5 toppings, when you got 101 options, are you putting on your ultimate burger? We'll get those text messages in and let you know what's going on for the rest of the show. Kane says it gets hotter than a hoochie coochie.
That's the old Alan Jackson song.
Yeah, it is.
So while those texts are coming in, for those that don't know, Diesel, this on the stream is Duncan Park. So this is in Spartanburg.
Looks like straight out of the Sandlot. When was this photo taken? The 80s?
This photo was probably taken in the 80s and yesterday. Both. Because
it still looks exactly the same.
So they've done. So now there's a fence.
They never heard lipstick on a pig.
No. So you see how like this. If you're watching on the stream, you can see this picture. But there's a fence that goes behind the bottom seating. So all of the upper seating, Diesel, is actually blocked off, and you can see the old press box up at the top that's boarded in now. Spartanburg Vikings. They play their home games there, but again, they don't have to accommodate hundreds and hundreds and thousands of people, right? But it is an old stadium. That is where the Burgers first tried in that wooden bat, whatever it was, league they tried a few years ago that didn't work. But it's listen. I mean, the new one doesn't compare.
That looks like a stadium, and this is not meant to be disrespect to Spartanburg High School. That looks like a stadium that got shut down 30 years ago, and you're looking at old photos of it.
I know. God. And you know what? There have been many people who have said, I can't believe Spartanburg still plays there. I can't believe they hadn't built their own stadium. A quick teaser, by the way. Speaking of Spartanburg, I'm sorry, I just messed the stream.
I got you.
Quick tease. Speaking of Spartanburg, there's been a lot on Twitter lately with Mark Hodge, the head football coach, and him. I don't want to use the word exposing the high school league, but kind of sort of exposing the high school league. There was a huge thread on Twitter about this. A lot of really good stuff to unpack. And if you didn't see that on Twitter, it's okay. He'll join us today live on the stream at 6 o'clock. It'll probably last 2 segments because there is a lot to unpack, and it's not good on the part of the South Carolina High School League. Not really surprising. But let's get back to the Burger building.
Gabe Porter says, oldest baseball stadium in the state. The OG Tolo JB, awesome old stadium. We used to sit on the third base side every time. Kane is speaking some sort of arcane language. I don't know. I don't understand
nobody knows what Kane says.
Stephen Webb says, whether I'm a Tolo or an Armada member, I was a loser. So does that make me a 2-time loser?
Yeah, it does.
Well, first step to not being a loser is admitting that you're a loser. So you gotta get past it. You need to make your atonements, Stephen Webb. Apologize. I don't know that we'll ever trust you again.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot, man, to get back. I mean, you really had us fooled. I mean, we were disappointed. Madcraft thinks we're disrespecting Duncan Park. He says he played there. And many famous players.
You can look with your own eyes, Madcraft, and see that the place needs a coat of paint. At the very least, a coat of paint.
And a bulldozer.
Well, yeah.
Todd Richardson on Facebook says, enjoying the show today, guys. Todd, we appreciate you, man.
Well, just take the stands down and put up some there's nothing wrong with the field. Just take the stands down,
fine.
Put some new stands in place. That's all you got to do.
The backdrop's actually really nice,
and it's high school baseball, right? Yeah. I mean, they don't need a gigantic seating section for high school baseball. You need seating for what, 100 tops? So, I mean, it could be done, and probably relatively cheaply. So, again, we were talking about the brand new burger topping bar at Fifth Third Park, where the Hub City Spartanburgers are going to take the field for the very first time tonight. 101 different topping options. Your five topping burger choice. Because if you start adding more than that, Cole, the thing's going to be so tall you can't get your mouth around. Madcraft probably can because he's got a big mouth. But,
he does.
But everybody else, you got to pare it down a little bit, make smart decisions. I'm just messing with you, Madcraft. Just messing with you.
So you're asking again to be clear of the toppings. They have 101 different toppings.
Sounds like just about anything you could think of.
Choose.
Yeah, there's probably not much they don't have.
Okay, so you can choose 5. I can't wait to see this on the text line at 844 fan phone. This is tough.
Is it really that hard?
Yeah.
I mean, like you could have a different mood and want a whole different set of toppings.
Is that your 5 right there that I'm looking at?
Yeah, my 5 are on the stream. While you're putting yours together, Cole,
man,
I'm going to read some of these that are coming in on the text line. My toppings, this comes from Scotty from BMW, says melted cheese, grilled onions, jalapenos, chili, pickles, mustard, and that's 7. That's 7, Scotty from BMW. You got to back that down. Dewey says bacon, cheese, tomato, onions, pickles. I'm surprised Dewey just didn't say bacon, 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 bacon.
That's not a bad choice, though.
You know?
I do like your Swiss cheese. I like that a lot. I'm with you there.
I got
like Swiss cheese,
mushrooms, bacon, crispy onions, and crispy jalapenos. It'll change your life.
What do you mean by crispy?
They fry them. They pre-fry them.
Okay, so
you can get canned like crispy jalapenos, canned crispy onions.
Okay.
You can get that. By the way, I'm going to change your life right now. Next time you make hot dogs, if you make like chili and slaw dogs, go to the store, get some of those canned crispy onions.
Yeah,
change your life. Top it with that instead of fresh chopped onions. Top it with the crispy ones. It's incredible.
Oh man, this one's tough. Let's see. I've got one left.
I'm surprised that yours has so much in common with mine.
I know it does.
I didn't realize that we had the same taste.
I don't go pickles. Oh, gosh.
I don't like pickles on burgers.
I don't either.
And it's a weird reason why I don't like pickles on burgers. It's because a burger is supposed to be a hot food, right? You got a hot burger, fresh off the grill,
it's cold,
hot enough to melt the cheese, and it's a cold, wet pickle. Yeah. I don't like that.
So here's something weird about me. I take a Chick-fil-A sandwich, the pickles, they can keep them on there. I'll take them off and eat them.
You want a little bit of flavor, but
I like
you
the
don't
flavor.
Okay,
I'll eat the pickles.
That's fair,
but I don't want them on the sandwich. So here's mine: Swiss cheese. I'm with you there. My 5. If I only get 5, Swiss cheese, mushrooms, grilled. They got to be grilled.
Oh yeah.
Grilled mushrooms, bacon. So I'm with you there. So I've got Swiss cheese, grilled mushrooms, bacon, mayo, and slaw.
Obviously Duke's, right?
Obviously Duke's.
The only option.
And I really doubled up on the mayo because there's mayo in the slaw as well. So
that's true. Good slaw has to have lots of mayo.
I like that. Swiss cheese, mushrooms, bacon, mayonnaise, and slaw. That's mine. That's if I have to choose 5. It's tough only choosing 5.
If I had to do another one, it would be mayo, slaw, chili, mustard, bacon.
I like that.
I think bacon's got to be on just about all. It's got to be on all of them.
Did you get the one on the streams as well?
I haven't yet.
Okay.
Kev on the text line, and this is hard, Kev, because you didn't put any punctuation in there. So I'm going to read it as you wrote it. Bacon, whipped cream, Duke's, pickles, and cheddar cheese. So cheddar, pickles. What is bacon, whipped cream?
Bacon. So I'm going to read bacon, whipped cream, Duke's. Is whipped cream Duke's? Is that one thing?
Yeah, I'm a little confused there, Kev. Help us out.
I don't know about whipped cream Duke's.
Maybe it's like mayo with bacon, like bacon bits chopped up in it, which sounds great. I mean, in theory, it sounds great. I've never had it before, but I'd dang well be willing to try it. What are they saying on the stream?
Let's see a lot on the stream. The stream is on fire today. OG Tolo JB says throw a pretzel, a pretzel bun in there, which is pretty good. Madcraft says throw a donut on there instead of the bun. I've had that actually, Madcraft. There's a restaurant in Fort Mill, I believe it is, that serves the burger, but no bun, but it's the donut instead. It's really good. Not to
leave the topic of burgers, but for a split second here, there's a chain of chicken restaurants, Southern chicken restaurants. I give you like 3 guesses. You probably figure out which one I'm talking about. They unveiled recently a waffle chicken sandwich.
Bojangles.
Yeah, it's not that good.
Have you had it?
I have had it. It's not that good.
Wow.
The flavors don't mix. It's the Bowberry biscuit, but it's made into a waffle and it's around. It's just weird. It's just weird.
Brian on YouTube says bacon cheeseburger with chili and eggs. See, a lot of people do go eggs, not me.
I do like a fried egg on my burger.
I don't like the fried
over
egg.
Medium, right? It's got to be a little bit runny.
I don't want the runniness.
What?
Oh, no.
You cook your eggs all the way through?
Yeah, most of the time. JD says lettuce, pickles, onion, mustard, and bacon. Very simple there.
Love it.
From
Can't go wrong.
JD. The OG Tolo JB says his 5 onions, tomatoes, bacon, pickles, and Monterey Jack.
Okay.
T Swizzle said, gotta have the onions well done, sauteed 100%.
Yeah.
Madcraft asked, grilled onions are fresh. Fresh are okay, but grilled are just so much better.
I'll take any kind of onions I can get, to be honest.
Yeah, I love onions. Stephen Webb says bacon, jam, pimento, cheese, crispy onions. Jam, like jelly?
I think it means bacon jam.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, it's like a jellied candied bacon.
I haven't had that. Have not had that. That sounds healthy. Madcraft says, excuse me.
What are we talking about here?
JD says, yeah, really. Cole wants ketchup. Yeah, I do. I mean, I do love ketchup. So plenty of ketchup on there, but you got to have mayonnaise. Let's see if I've missed any. MD75 says cheese, mayonnaise, ketchup, bacon, fried egg. That was a pretty popular one there.
There's a restaurant down the street, Cole, that does an adult grilled cheese burger.
Oh, yeah.
It's grilled cheese, the burger in it, with a fried egg on top. It's incredible.
Texter says my burger is grilled onions, cheddar cheese, chili, grilled jalapenos. Oh, he also said with sriracha. That comes from Scotty from BMW.
Sriracha on a burger.
Never had that.
I'll try it for you, Scotty.
Texter from the 203 asked about the egg burgers.
A lot of great ideas.
I don't know. There have been a few egg burger suggestions, but not for me. Y'all can have y'all's eggs on y'all's burgers. I'll take a hard pass there.
Just pack all the protein on there you possibly can. Make you strong.
I'm telling you, man,
big and tall.
I can't remember the name of it, but again, it's near Northwestern High School. Last time I went to Northwestern for a football game, we went there, Diesel, and it's I believe it's in Fort Mill. No, not Fort Mill. What town is Northwestern? Is that Rock Hill? Rock Hill. There's a burger place, and there's no bun. So they take the donut and they cut the donut in half, right?
Ooh.
Then they fry the donut to make it crispy.
Yeah.
Then they use that as the bun. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. It's
nice.
so good. It's so unhealthy, but it's so good. It's hard to beat a donut burger.
It's all a Southern man's favorite things.
Oh, it really is. It's good stuff, man. Good stuff. So excited about the Spartanburgers tonight. Tolos, let us know if you are going to the game tonight. I would love for you to tag us in your pictures that you post on Twitter, on X, or on Facebook, at The Fan Upstate on Facebook. Diesel is on Twitter at Diesel on Radio. Follow me as well at The Cole Bryson. If you're going, let us know. Tweet us, tag us in some pictures, and maybe I'll see you there. Like I said, it'll be 7:30 or so before I get there. I'm gonna swing in for a few minutes and say hello to some people. Christopher on Twitter. I just saw Christopher's. I'm glad I got it in before the break. Christopher on X says bacon, cheese, egg, mustard, and jalapenos. I like that.
Dan B says we talk more about food on here than sports, which is okay.
It is okay.
Think about this, Dan. You know, we talk about food and there's 40 messages.
Yeah.
We can talk about what
the
Carolina
sports.
Panthers are going to do with the draft. We get like 3 messages.
Well, in the next segment, we're going to talk Braves and Jackie Robinson, and we'll see how many texts we get. Speaking of that, today is a very, very important day. Jackie Robinson Day, if you did not know. Also, Madcraft and I were having a conversation yesterday, Diesel, that I want to bring to the table. Now that we know what the Braves look like through 15 or so games, how many ever they've played, how many games do we think the Braves will win this season? Are you willing to go 80? Are you thinking more like 70? Let's have that conversation next. Couple of comments to get to on the stream as well as the text line that came in during the commercial break. And Armada Tolo, is that like Kane's other person? Is that his twin? I don't know who that is. It sounds like Kane, though. He says, best burger is chili cheese with bacon aplenty. The aplenty is important because my 5 toppings are chili, cheese, bacon, fry grease, and onion ring grease. I don't know that those count as toppings. Does that just doesn't sound? I don't know. I don't know that that's advised to add more grease to a greasy entree. Right?
So when did you have your first heart attack?
Yeah, really. Tell us exactly. How can we help you? Diesel, every April 15th, MLB pays homage to one of its most important players. I would go on a limb and say its most important player in the history of the league. All players and coaches wear the number 42 today to celebrate Jackie Robinson Day in honor of the Los Angeles Dodgers legend. Players, managers, and coaches on all 30 MLB teams will wear a Dodger blue number 42 on the back of their uniforms on Tuesday. They also will have umpires wearing the hat that has a 42 patch in tribute to Robinson. In case you've been under a rock and did not know, Jackie Robinson was the first black player in the MLB after breaking the color barrier in 1947. He endured racial abuse and antagonism from fans, players, and opposing managers when he took the field. He excelled on the field, winning the Rookie of the Year award in the first season in the majors. Robinson Diesel continued to play at a higher rate, earning 6 All-Star appearances and winning a National League MVP award in the MLB. Before enshrining in the Hall of Fame in 1962, he obviously opened the door for other black players who have went on to change the way the game is played, both on and off of the field. So you will see many articles, many pieces of news out there that say Jackie Robinson is one of the most important players in MLB history, but I'll tell you my opinion on this Tuesday. Jackie Robinson is the most important player to ever play baseball because of what he did for the game. That's just my opinion.
The fact that he won Rookie of the Year in a league that hated him, that didn't want him there, just goes to show how impressive he was as a player. Cole, I know a lot of our Tolos probably had to do this report when they were in elementary school, but did you ever have to do that thing where you took a line from We Didn't Start the Fire and you had to take one line of it and then write a page paper or a book report?
No, but I've seen that
about it. We had to do that, and I chose the line about Jackie Robinson in that song. And so I maybe that's what I need to do next year. I need to find that book report somewhere. I need to find out if it still exists. My parents, they don't really keep stuff from my childhood like that, like book reports and stuff, but I'll have to go see if I can dig it out of the archives and bring back and see what probably what 9-year-old, 10-year-old, 11-year-old me had to say about Jackie Robinson.
It's just cool, man. Like, you think about it in terms of not only the MLB Diesel, but what African-American players have done for sports in general. And look, I want to be very clear. I think that Jackie Robinson's the most important MLB player ever because of what he did, not for the white players, but for those who never would have had a chance or an opportunity to play in the MLB. It's just the sad part is, as time goes on, just like with 9/11 Diesel and other historic events, people will not raise as much awareness and talk about it as much as it needs to be. But I just think, man, on a day like today, it is super, super important. It's super vital to acknowledge what he did for the game of baseball, also acknowledge what he did for other sports as well, because sports are absolutely fantastic, that we have people from all nationalities, all walks of life a part of sports that are different colors, different religions. They believe different things when it comes to politics, Diesel, but guess what? None of that matters, and that's why sports is truly the best, because once you get out there on the field, it brings you together for a common goal and a common theme. So it's just an incredible day. Shout out to Jackie Robinson and the legacy. Talk about leaving a legacy. That's that is what leaving a legacy behind means. And what he left is just truly remarkable.
OG Tolo JB says everyone should go and watch the movie 42
Yes.
tonight. Awesome movie with Chadwick Boseman playing Jackie Robinson.
What's your name?
I agree. Fantastic movie. Definitely worth a watch. Question is, should you watch 42 tonight or should you watch the play-in games for the NBA?
It depends if you like Golden State or not. Like a lot of people will have their eyeballs on Golden State just because Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, right? But it didn't come on until 10 o'clock. So you've got time.
Yeah.
You've got time to watch 42. That's a good one. That's a good movie, man. That's a really good movie. I need to go back and watch that. It's been too long. So just a happy National Jackie Robinson Day to everybody out there. Diesel, let's get into the Atlanta Braves, who looked really good last night. The Braves got a win over Toronto, and Madcraft and I were texting back and forth after the show about the Braves last night and talking about what their win total would be now that we kind of have a feeling of what this team is. We know the rough start. The Atlanta Braves are now, let me find it, 5-11 on the season. 5-11 on the season. So the question is, now that the Braves have started the season 5-11, 2-9 on the road, how many baseball games this season do you Braves fans out there believe your Atlanta Braves will win? You've got a little bit of a gauge on the team. You know that Profar and a couple other guys are gone. How many games? How many games? Let's go to the phone lines where I'm sure Dewey will want to comment on that, being a resident Braves fan. What's up, Dewey?
Yes. Well, first of all, yeah, Braves, they're the most inconsistent team in baseball history. They got to be. One day they're great. They're back. Next day they look like crap.
It's true.
Yeah.
And the problem is now Ozuna's gone. With Ozuna, they're 1 through 5 look like you fear them. But the problem is 6, 7, 8, and 9 are crap.
Mm-hmm.
They did nothing during the off season. They did nothing during the trade deadline last year. It's all coming back to bite them. Even with Acuna back, their pitching's horrible. Chris Sale, I don't know what's going on with him. He's probably going to be on the injured list soon, probably with a shoulder injury, usually how that goes. Lopez ain't coming back no time soon. Schwellenbach's their only hope, but he's still little and still learning, so we still don't know how good he's really going to be. And everyone else is crap, and their bullpen's crap.
And Ozuna, by the way,
what's going on?
I'm sorry, Dewey. I didn't mean to cut you off. Well, you go ahead. You finish.
And the problem is, too, if you notice in their win, not last win, but the win before that, Iglesias came in and he giving up runs. He gives up runs every single time he's closing. He's crap now. And we're going to bring in Kimbrel, I think they sent him he's at Double-A now, working his way back. He's 100 years old. That might be the Braves' only hope to close out games.
Yeah.
And their lack of off season, it's just he will get Acuna back and Spencer Strider. 81, 82 games. That's probably being generous.
You think 81? And okay, thanks, Dewey. He does give us he says 81 to 82. I think that's where Madcraft and I kind of landed about last night, or landed around. JD with a fascinating question on the YouTube stream. He says, how long does it take for them to get back over 500, if ever? It's a good question. So let's look at it like this. Right now they're 5-11. And by the way, Ozuna is kind of like day-to-day, like Madcraft talked about, with a hip injury, hopefully more precautionary than anything, Diesel. But there are roughly, let's see, how many did I tell Madcraft? 138, I believe. Oh, yeah, here it is right here. I've got it on my phone. There are 138 games left in the MLB, approximately, give or take. With 138 games to go, the Braves are 5-11. We know that everything that Dewey just said, Diesel's true in terms of the injuries, people trying to come back, how much of a lift do they provide? Do the Atlanta Braves win 80 games is the question. If you divide 138 by 2, you're left with 69. And then you add in the 5 that they've already won. That would be 74 wins. I think this baseball team probably will finish from 75 to 80 wins. JD, I don't know if they, now that I think about it, I don't know if they get above 500. Above 500.
In my mind, Cole, just because this team seems so snake bit, and
they do.
If Chris Sale goes down at some point this season, which we all expected him to go down at some point last season, he didn't. But if he goes down at some point this season, that's going to make it really tough to get to that 500 mark, to get to that 81 and 81 mark. I'd be willing to bet that this team finishes somewhere around 74 to 76 wins.
Yeah, I think that's probably safe. JD, I will say this. If they were, in my mind, to get above 500, they played good last night. Maybe they could, in the next month, flip the script a little bit. Maybe in the next month, they could win, 15 to 20 ball games over the next month and a half and climb above 500. Maybe let's look. They're 5-11 now. Maybe if they can get to, 15 and maybe if they can keep it Diesel at 15 and 17, maybe 15 and 18, and then all of a sudden go on a little bit of a win streak. It's going to be tough, though, JD, because of where you started in terms of getting back to 500. Let's see what the Tolos are saying about how many games they'll win. Tennessee Tyler on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line says the Braves will win 70 to 75 games. So Tennessee Tyler not far off in his thinking with you and I, Diesel. Scotty from BMW says 78 games for the Braves, 95 for the Yankees. Go Yankees. Yeah, that's probably an accurate statement there, Scotty. The Yankees are going to be okay, even though they went through a little bit of a lull. Madcraft says, good news is strength of schedule is in our favor going forward.
That is true. Twins are a sub 500 club right now. St. Louis, last time I checked, were, and I assume they still are. They're a 500 club on the nose.
And that's what they have next after
St. Louis Cardinals. Yeah, they got 2 more games against Toronto, which, second game is tonight at 7:07 first pitch. Twins stink. They're 5-12. After that, they've got St. Louis that are 8-8. Arizona is, Arizona is 9-7. So they're above 500, but they're not great. The Rockies stink. And then not until May do they face another really strong team in the Dodgers. They'll have a 3-game series against the Dodgers at home, May 2nd, 3rd, 4th.
A little bit of breaking news that I just had pop up on my Twitter page before we run to a break. South Carolina transfer power forward Nick Pringle has signed with Arkansas. So going to play for Coach Cal. Now, Diesel, he goes here's his path in college. Again, welcome to modern day athletics and in college athletics. Nick Pringle went from Wofford to Alabama to South Carolina and now to Arkansas. So making his way around the South, if you will, from Spartanburg all the way over to Arkansas.
Good news. He'll be able to shoot in all these gyms because he's shot in them before.
He's shot in them before. He's familiar with That's interesting, though, because Nick Pringle definitely was a disappointment for the Gamecocks this past season. Did not live up to expectations. So it's interesting that Cal goes out and gets him. That's an interesting signing. We'll see, man. He has a lot to live up to, or kind of see if he can prove the doubters wrong, because he just didn't perform like we thought he would. A couple of texts that we missed. Let's see here. Texter says, who cares about the Braves? Go Spartanburgers and boo Greenville Drive. There you go. I like that text. Jersey Joe says, forget about the Braves. Let's go Mets. Jersey Joe, come on now. You can't be pulling for a in-division rival for us Atlanta Braves fans. But you know what's great about
Jersey shouldn't be cheering for anything New York anyway.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah. I do like that we have a lot of other fans in the Upstate now because of people moving into the area that aren't just Braves fans. So that's awesome to see.
Yeah, you can tell by all the subdivisions that are going up everywhere you look. You know who's filling up those houses? People like Jersey Joe. And we're glad that you're here, Jersey Joe. Right. Everybody else can get out. When we come back, Cole, on the other side of the break tonight is the official start of the NBA playoffs. What would you change about the way some of these major sports operate their postseasons? If you could, if you were a commissioner, an arbiter of sports, how would you change these major sporting playoffs? That conversation is next. Cole, are you one of those people who always believes that more of something is better? I'm not. I'm not one of those people. I scoff at the people who say, don't you want more football? Don't you want more baseball? Isn't more basketball better? No, it's not, as clearly evidenced by the NBA playoffs. And I don't start watching the NBA until the playoffs. That's really kind of when I start getting interested in the NBA. But even then, Cole, I think it drags. I think it drags on way too long, as evidenced by the fact that there are 4 teams playing with a sub 500 record right now. Still 4 teams playing in the NBA playoffs sub 500. I think that's wrong. I don't think 5 teams below 500 need to even have the opportunity to play in to the playoffs. Am I wrong?
In terms of too much of anything is a good thing, I don't think I'm one of those people that want more of everything. But when it comes to sports, for the most part, generally, I am one of those in the category that you were talking about in terms of wanting more. Now, I don't have a problem reducing the NBA playoffs by like 2 teams. I think we could have some maybe a buy series. I don't know how that would work with it being a 7-game series. Maybe you could reduce them to 5. I love more sports, so I don't want to just reduce everything, but I'm open to it.
I do. I want to go Doge. I want to go slashing budgets, getting rid of all of it. And I said that wrong, by the way. 5 of the 8 teams playing in the play-in games are sub 500, and the Magic are 500. So 80% of the teams who are playing in the play-in are 500 or below.
Yeah.
That's crappy basketball. I don't want to watch crappy basketball. I think this thing needs to be reduced in a major way, Cole. Number one, reduce. I think you can keep the number of teams in it, but then reduce this thing down in a major way. And I have a fun way to do it, Cole. Okay. I think all of the first round games, let me rephrase that. I think all the play-in games need to have a stipulation put on it. Or first round series. You play your 3 games. If the first game is a blowout, automatic elimination. 20-point loss or more in the play in the first round of the playoffs, your ass is gone. There's not going to be a second chance. You're not going to get the opportunity to try this thing again. You know, you go out there and you lay an egg. The rest of the viewing public doesn't need to see that. Is that crazy?
It is a little bit, but I don't hate craziness. I mean, it would be interesting maybe for the, I don't love bad teams being in the play-in. However, I do love single elimination. So I don't mind watching tonight the Grizzlies and the Warriors. I think that's good, 7th versus 8th place, right? Again, I'm not going to argue with you that the Magic should not be competing in the NBA postseason at all. I'm not going to argue with you there. There are teams that should not be there. I'm with you on that.
Why do we need a series of 7 all the way through the NBA playoffs? That's dumb.
I would say
that's
to that
7 with 2 crappy teams.
No, I would say maybe go to the first round, go 5. So if I were going to do anything to the NBA playoffs, I would go first round is only 5 games, and then everything else is 7. I do like 7 when it gets to the conference, the conference championship.
I think first round all the way through the conference finals need to be best of 3. And the finals need to be best of 5.
No, that's too many.
The NBA finals take like 4 weeks to play them all.
I love it, though.
I hate it. I hate it.
But then sports are gone.
This let's play one game over here, and then let's walk across the country and play a game over there, and then we get on some horses and we ride the horses back to the other side of the country and play a game over there. That's terrible. That's terrible having 3-4 nights between games.
Sports will be over with, and we'll be upset.
No, you just move on.
No,
you move on to the next thing. That's the beauty. That's the beauty thing about sports. No, there's baseball. There's golf. There's majors. There's good stuff.
I love the NBA. I do. I love it. I want more of it.
I don't know, man. I could reduce it all the way down to 5 games in the finals and be just fine. It's hard to say that the NFL playoffs should change much. I think those are fine. College football playoff. It's going to do nothing but change. We didn't really get a good chance to see what this 12-team format was going to do. Yeah, this year was a little bit wonky. It was a little bit wild, but they're going to change this thing immediately, Cole. So we're not really going to get enough data to find out if the 12-team college football playoff was any good or not.
Oh no, it'll be changed. What'd you say? A year?
Oh, it'll be changed in a year. They have to ensure that the craziness that we had last year cannot be allowed to happen again.
Yeah.
I truly believe that. It's Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. A lot of people, Cole, talking about this Braves sideline reporter that got some digits up in the stands last night. You said you were watching it live and watched it happen. Great job by that sideline reporter to get that blonde girl's phone number. The guys in the booth were saying, "Hey, can we get those numbers up? Meaning, get more Braves fans. Can you convince them to become Braves fans and add 2 more to the coffers?" What he heard was, "Hey, get that blonde girl's phone number."
Yeah,
I mean, I think she has to go on a date with him now. It's out there.
It was a funny piece of audio.
Loved it.
I saw it this morning actually on TikTok, and it was credit to the reporter. He didn't back down. We have time for Jersey Joe real quick before we run to a break. Jersey Joe, what's up, man?
What's up, guys? How we doing today?
Good, man.
I mean, you guys talk about the NBA playoffs, and it takes like 3 months to go through them all, which is just ridiculous. I remember I was a really diehard Knicks fan back in like the late 70s, early on 80s, like mid 80s. Back in the Bernard King and even before when Patrick Ewing and those guys came through. But I remember the playoffs back then. It was only the top 4 teams in each the West and the East. Top 4 teams. That was it. First round was the best of 3. Second round was the best of 5. Then your championship was best of 7, and that was it.
Well, what was wrong with that? There was nothing wrong with that format.
Well, the horse and buggies back then, it took a long time to get back and forth. I mean, the horse and buggies back in the Jersey Joe's day, it took a long time. That's why they did that.
All right, come on now.
Thanks for the call, Jersey Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Got to run to a break. Good stuff there.
Texter says, I don't know what sports Diesel does like. Somebody else says, Diesel really hates sports to host a sports talk radio show. You're right, Texters, both of you. I hate all sports. I don't like sports. I don't even know what I'm doing here.
Speaking of sports, history tells us that this will be a bad year, Diesel, for who? A bad year for who? Maybe they can buck that theory. I'll tell you who they're talking about next. What does history tell us, Diesel? Well, you could answer that with several different answers, several different theories. But when it comes to the NFL draft and what's going to happen, and what did you say earlier in the show, 2 weeks? Is that
Less than.
Is that a week
It's
away?
next Thursday.
I mean, it got here in no time.
It's like less than 10 days away now.
That's not possible. I don't think you're right on that. There's no way. There's just no way that the NFL draft is already here. However, it is. And history tells us, Diesel, that this year will be bad for a certain position group in the NFL draft. Does do any Tolos out there want to take a wild guess at what position group history tells us it'll be a bad year for? Diesel, I think you and I have talked about this several times already on the show, leading in to the NFL draft, talking about some guys who have been highly touted at a certain position. But the Tolos out there probably know the Tolos are smart. Tolo stands for turn on, leave on. They know, they watch sports. They have an understanding of what's going on out there. And I believe the Tolos out there don't even have to guess. I believe they know, Diesel, what position group I'm talking about in terms of history not being on its side. That is the quarterback position that I'm talking about. Okay. Why do I say that history tells us that this will not be a good year for the quarterbacks? Well, the experts, the pundits, those in the know, right? Those who have really done the digging and the watching and the studying of those quarterbacks have gone through this class, and they have ranked the quarterback prospects. For example, Cam Ward, who was ranked third in the NFL draft projections. Shedeur Sanders ranked 27th overall, which is mind-boggling by CBS Sports. Jackson Dart ranked 50th. Jalen Milroe ranked 78th. Quinn Ewers ranked 101st, outside of the top 100. So does this mean, Diesel, that the other position groups out there are going to be really good this season or this draft, that we're going to have some really solid draft picks at other position groups? Or does this mean truly that this is going to be a bad year when we know the NFL demand for quarterbacks year in and year out is always high? Do you buy that theory based on what you've seen from quarterbacks last year in college, that this could be a bad year for the quarterbacks in the draft?
It's tough. I mean, the draft is cyclical, and, you would think that there would be a nice even flow of 3 or 4 solid quarterback prospects, 5 or 6 really good wide receiver prospects, and you got your O-line and your D-line and your linebackers and your DBs all mixed in there, but it's not, man. There's no rhyme or reason for how this thing kind of plays out and shakes out year from year. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if this is the year where one of those players jumps up and surprises you as being a better player than what the experts projected them to be. And, the difficulty of always predicting this, and as Cole, is you're not going to know for like 3 to 4 years if some of these guys are good. I mean, Cam Ward is as lightning in a bottle as you can get for a quarterback, but maybe he has some attitude problems, and maybe that holds him back playing in an NFL locker room. I mean, he's going to be going into a locker room with a really bad team. How does that affect how he behaves and how he develops wherever he's going to go? Shedeur's got a lot of questions about him. Jackson Dart, he's incomplete, but I think he might have the chance to actually be the best quarterback in this draft. Ultimately, when you look at it from the course of 4 or 5 years down the line.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring Jackson Dart up, and Jackson Dart is a guy that I've watched and thought to myself, maybe this guy, and I know a lot of people out there have thrown their dark horses out there, but I have also looked at Jackson Dart. I don't know about Quinn Ewers. I think Jackson Dart could be a guy, when everybody in the world is talking about Cam Ward, who had a terrific season last year at Miami and a terrific career. I'm with you that he could be that guy. What's interesting about the draft talk and ranking these quarterbacks and where they should be ranked and what their future holds is the thing that you just brought up, and you touched on it briefly there, Diesel, before we get into why history tells us this is going to be a bad year for the quarterbacks. What we cannot see is situations. Us as the common fan out there, we say, oh, Trevor Lawrence, he sucks. He's no good anymore, right? He's in Jacksonville, he's a bust. Okay, you name the other quarterback out there that also you think as a fan has been a bust, right? There are plenty of quarterbacks out there who were really good in college that did not pan out in the NFL, and you could say, okay, they were a bust. They didn't translate. Their game didn't translate. Well, the one thing that we can't see fully, the one thing that we really can't account for is the situation. The situation so much matters, and we've talked about that. But there's a really good chance, Diesel, that only 2 quarterbacks will be drafted in the first round next week. There's been one draft in the last 8 years with 2 or fewer quarterbacks going in the first round. Again, there's been one draft in the last 8 years with 2 or fewer quarterbacks going in the first round. That was 2022. Kenny Pickett went 20th to the Pittsburgh Steelers. No other quarterback went in the first 2 rounds. That's not good. And that's kind of what they're projecting this year. Brock Purdy's actually the only quarterback from the class among 9 players still with his team. Overall, Diesel, there have been 6 draft classes in the past 20 years featuring only 1 or 2 quarterbacks taken in the first round. The entire quarterback classes those years turned out very poorly, including the first round. So why does history tell us this, that it's going to be bad for the quarterbacks? It's because of their rankings, according to those out there that rank these quarterbacks according to the air quotes experts.
Yeah, I don't know really, I don't know how much stock you can put into what a lot of the experts say, because aren't these experts the same experts that will project 5, 6, 7 quarterbacks going in the first round, and you'll have a run one year and almost all of them end up busting wherever they go?
Yeah,
right. I mean, these same experts have been very wrong before on quarterbacks. Sure. And look, I mean, we're in a time of the game where it's part of it is just the environment of the players that are coming out and available in the draft in a given year, and that's not something the NFL teams can control. But also, Cole, we're seeing veterans have longer and longer careers and play better deep into their careers, and there's been a higher premium placed on veterans last year and this year. We're also seeing the rightful higher valuation on running backs and on linemen and on defensive backs. So I think this just sort of, some years there will be a flash sale on quarterbacks. And it's part of it is these same experts, these same pundits get those conversations going and say, this is the best quarterback class we've ever had. And all of a sudden, 5 of them go off the board in the top 12. And you just look back and you say, not all these guys can pan out. It just can't happen that way.
So the fewest quarterbacks drafted in the first round in the past 20 years is as follows. 2022, there was 1 in Kenny Pickett. 2013, 1 E.J. Manuel, who we all know didn't pan out. 2015, there were 2. It was Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota. 2010, there were 2, Sam Bradford and Tim Tebow. 2008, Matt Ryan and Joe Flacco. Obviously, those 2 panned out pretty well. 2007, Jamarcus Russell and Brady Quinn. Of the 10 quarterbacks drafted in the first round in those classes that I just read, only 2 of those 10 Ds will get a second contract. Again, only 2 of those 10 quarterbacks get a second contract with their draft team, and that was Matt Ryan and Joe Flacco. Only 2 made a Pro Bowl, Jameis Winston and Matt Ryan. Winston was a Pro Bowl replacement, by the way, in the year he made it in 2015. Half of those 10 have 20 or fewer touchdown passes in their entire NFL careers, including Kenny Pickett. It doesn't get much better when you look at the entirety of those classes too. So to your point, some years you just have the quarterbacks, the position groups that really excel. And again, going back to what I just said, position matters for so many of them. Where they land, their landing spot, their situation matters rather, in terms of who their coach is, what the weapons are, who the general manager is. Yeah. All of that matters so much.
I think teams are learning, Cole, not to be so desperate when it comes to quarterback, right? I mean, we're seeing, and it's kind of echoing. Remember last week when we were on location, we were having a conversation about recruiting in college athletics and how they prioritize the types of players that they like to recruit. Like high priority is a guy that's got 1 or 2 years under his belt at a bigger school that you can just slide right in and will be able to pick up and play. And then below that, you got the developmental guys who spent a year somewhere. And way down on the list, they've got high school recruits. Well, you just move up a level. This is kind of the same thing. Maybe the NFL is starting to value those guys who have had 3 or 4 years. They played their rookie contracts out where they're going to go, or maybe a couple years beyond that, and it hasn't quite worked out. And they think, oh, maybe because of what we've seen with Sam Darnold and Geno Smith and other guys like them, you can say, okay, maybe it really was just fit and situation that wasn't right for that player. We think we can fix them. And sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. But then again, you've already got a couple of years of experience under your quarterback's belt. They can just breeze past all of that stuff. See, the league used to almost always be rookie quarterback gets drafted, they sit for a year or 2 or 3, and they learn. Well, now what are we doing? We're forcing rookie quarterbacks into starting roles that they are not ready for. And after 10 years, 15 years of doing that, I think NFL teams are learning that's not necessarily the best strategy. There's some teams that are still going to do it because you don't go out there and draft number 1 or number 2 and draft a quarterback to not play him, to sit him. When your team sucks, fans will demand to see, Caleb Williams on the field. They will demand to see Bryce Young on the field. And it was evidenced last year with Caleb and the year before that with Bryce. A lot of these rookie quarterbacks, even if they're coming out of college, highly touted with a lot of skill set, they are just not ready to play in the NFL yet.
There's a small percentage, I'd say a very small percentage of those that defy the odds in terms of being ready to play. Tolos, want to hear from you on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line, 844-326-3663. That's 844-FAN-PHONE, FANFONE. Let's go through some of those and look at the red flags, the green flags, Diesel, starting with Cam Ward. When you look at Cam Ward, the only red flag out there in my mind that I can find scouring the internet, the only red flag is that he's the best quarterback in what is considered a very weak quarterback class. So again, what's that say? He's the best quarterback in what they're considering a very weak quarterback class. Should that go against Cam Ward? No. But again, even Cam Ward, who's projected to be the top quarterback, we don't know how good he's going to be. We do know that he folded a couple of times like a cheap tent at Miami. We do know that he wasn't flawless, as few quarterbacks are. Heisman Trophy finalist. We all know how good he was last year, but he has to improve. And I think not only with Cam Diesel, but the rest of these that we're going to go through quickly, there are a lot of question marks, probably more question marks than there are green flags when looking at these guys.
Yeah, with Cam, my red flag is attitude. Is he a team guy, or is he solely out for himself, right? Does he have do we think that he's going to be the next Patrick Mahomes, who is a team-oriented guy, or do we think he's going to be solely about himself? I think he's more of a selfish player, and that's a red flag to me.
When it comes to Shedeur Sanders, obviously everything that he does, every step he takes becomes scrutinized. It gets examined closely, Diesel, with him having the last name that he does. You cannot question, though, his toughness and his loyalty to his team, because last year and the year before that, he took a beating. He absolutely has taken a beating the past 2 seasons, 94 sacks, most in the FBS in that span, 3.92 sacks per game, which is, by the way, Diesel, the most this century. So what he lacks in arm strength, he makes up for with his accuracy, his poise, his efficiency. I think Shedeur Sanders does have a high ceiling. There are a lot of people out there who don't believe that just because of his last name. And like I said, everything he does gets scrutinized. But today, when you're talking about Shedeur Sanders, if I was a GM and I had to pick one quarterback to take out of this entire class today, I would take Shedeur Sanders over anybody else.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, a guy that faced a lot of adversity in college, and even when things were going well for him, they weren't going that well, right? It's not like they were a college football playoff contending type of team. He didn't have a ton of talent around him. So I think in that sense, a green flag is that he's been in this situation in college that he's going to go to for an NFL team.
Yeah.
He's going to go to a team that is bereft of talent. He's going to go to a work in progress. He's not going to have his dad around. That's going to be a change. Don't know how much, he really relied on Dion being around, but I think this is going to be something that's familiar to him. And I talk about it all the time. College players, especially the best of the best quarterbacks, they are, recruited to a place that has everything rolling in theory. You got great receivers, you got great linemen, you got great everything around you. You go off to the NFL, you have substandard compared to the rest of the league around you. So now you have to figure out how to go be great and rise above a crappy team around you. And Shedeur has had to do that already.
Couple of quick texts, and we'll get to one more. Texter says, sounding like Tom Bacon. I believe the texter meant Tom Brady, dumbing the game down to let these rookies play instead of sitting and learning. Texter from the 803 says, Sanders reminds me a lot of Rattler's tenure at South Carolina. He has more confidence and resources around him. I think his ceiling is just as high as Spencer's ceiling at New Orleans. Lastly, you mentioned Jackson Dart, a possible, put an asterisk beside that, Diesel, possible first-round selection, transferred obviously from USC to Ole Miss, 3 seasons there, against good defenses, right? He led the FBS in pass efficiency with a 180.7. He was third in passing yards. If he gets picked by a playoff team, somebody who already has a quarterback, Diesel, I think Jackson Dart will land in a really good situation. Of the quarterbacks that we've talked about, Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, and Jackson Dart, I think the green flag for Jackson Dart is he's not projected to go early. So if Jackson Dart lands on a playoff team, he may be able to sit behind somebody for a year or two, right? Maybe sitting and learning from Matthew Stafford in L.A. for a year or two before Stafford retires. The biggest concern from the pundits with Jackson Dart is his ability to anticipate throws and read defenses. But other than that, he had the 4th largest average pass depth in the FBS last year. He wasn't carving up defenses on short and immediate throws. They did a lot of long balls, a lot of chance taking at Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin, as you know. So I think Jackson Dart, maybe Diesel, if he were to go late, might be in the best position of any quarterback.
I think so as well. I mean, you got good players around you. The one thing that scares me in that sense, Cole, is kind of the same thing that happened to Spencer Rattler. Is you get drafted to a situation where you've got a veteran and a quarterback whose skills are diminishing. If they hang on to that guy a little bit longer, then you get jumped over by another player that could be drafted. And I've seen some mock drafts saying that the New Orleans Saints need to go quarterback again, which I think would be a mistake, and not giving Spencer his due. As of right now, I'm looking at the CBS mock drafts. One of them has Jackson Dart going 26 to the LA Rams. Another one has Jackson Dart going 21 to the Steelers. So, I mean, neither one of those are bad situations, and I think he could grow into a role depending on where he goes. When we come back, Cole, we dive back into the story of Nico Iamaleava, now ex-quarterback of the Tennessee Volunteers, with Ryan Schumpert, who covers Tennessee for Rocky Top Insider. Well, the offseason has delivered when it comes to just scintillating news in the world of college football. We've been talking about it now since Thursday of last week as we were starting to get wind of the situation involving Tennessee quarterback Nico Iamaleava. And to talk about it, go deeper into the story, we bring on Ryan Schumpert, who covers Tennessee for Rocky Top Insider. First time we've ever had Ryan on the show before. Ryan, can you help me out here? Maybe you hear more than what we do, but why is the vast majority of what we're hearing around this story coming from Tennessee, and we're hearing basically nothing from Nico and his team directly? I mean, if the weight of the internet was calling me a greedy scrub, I think I'd want to respond. Don't you?
Yeah, no, it's a pretty good point. I'd guess that some of it just has to do with the way things went down last week for Nico. Nico's team's last communication with the media was Nico's dad calling Pete Nakos a 5-letter word that starts with B, with maybe a 7 in there instead of a T. So the last communication with the media maybe didn't go the best. And then following that up with Nico no-showing Tennessee's practice on Friday, I think is probably led to them being quieter for now as they kind of figure out the next steps. Though I would wager in time you'll see Nico's team and Nico's camp kind of push back against some of the narratives against them once he does find a new school and is officially, kind of moving on from Tennessee.
Tolos, if you have a question out there for Ryan, let us know on the Hub City Spartanburgers text line at 844-FAN-PHONE. We appreciate you listening on 97.1 Spartanburg, 97.7 Greenville, and on the free Odyssey app, or watching the show live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Ryan, I would imagine by looking at your profile picture on Twitter, on X, that you're a pretty young guy. This is Cole here, by the way. I'm 28, so I'm in the young camp for now. But in your time covering Tennessee, in your time as I would assume a pretty young sports writer, is this the most juicy story, if you will, that you had come across for a sports writer like yourself?
Yeah, I'm 26, so I would probably say so. Definitely the biggest. I mean, look, I've covered Tennessee baseball. It's actually my first beat, and they're no strangers to drama and all that good stuff. But I don't even think they've had anything quite to this level. And it's funny, back in the winter, or really even go back to the fall, I worked on an oral history story for the 15-year anniversary of Lane Kiffin, the night Lane Kiffin left Tennessee. So talked to a lot of people about that, and 15 years later, and kind of getting that perspective. And there, for the 10, 15 years in the past, there were a lot of stories kind of like this around Tennessee. They couldn't seem to get out of their own way, but things they've steadied a little bit. And certainly I covered the Jeremy Pruitt era, and all that stuff was, pretty interesting and pretty crazy as well. But I don't think anything, when you talk about kind of the lightning rod that this Nico thing has been nationally, I'm not sure anything I've covered has quite compared to it.
Ryan, can you take us a little deeper into the timeline of events and exactly how and when and by whom the ripcord was actually pulled? I mean, like we were saying earlier, there's not been a ton of communication from Nico. He no-showed at practice, and then, on Saturday, I think it was, the interview with Josh Heupel came out saying that, we appreciate his time and his efforts, but we're going to move on. So as best you know them, how exactly did this whole scenario even happen?
Yeah, so Thursday afternoon is when Nakos had to report that Nico and Tennessee were negotiating. And then Thursday night, Nico was at dinner with the other quarterbacks on Tennessee's roster at the quarterback's coach's house. Everything kind of seemed fine, seemed normal. And even Nakos' report just on its own wasn't anything crazy. I don't think anybody was shocked to hear that Iamaleava and his camp were renegotiating things. And then Friday, to me, is when things really got real, when he didn't show up at practice on Friday morning, Tennessee's last one before the spring game, and then was really not in contact, or Tennessee's coaches could not get in contact with him throughout the day. And I believe it's Chris Lowe of ESPN who had first reported this, but I believe Nico did tell Tennessee's quarterbacks coach and offense coordinator Joey Halsley on Friday night that he intended to enter the transfer portal, and then Tennessee, I guess told Pete Thamel had to report on Saturday morning that the two sides were going in different directions. So while Tennessee did position it like they were moving on, and at that point I do think they weren't going to let Nico come back. That was kind of somewhat of an empty threat, I guess, because I think it was pretty clear at that point that Nico already intended to move on as well.
We're joined by Ryan Schumpert of Rocky Top Insider, who has a really good beat on the entire Nico situation. One of our listeners, one of our Tolos, Ryan JD, on the text line has a question for you. Can we ask Ryan if he is as comfortable with the quarterbacks behind Nico as Josh Heupel is the question from one of our listeners.
I would say if you injected Josh Heupel with truth serum, he's probably a little less confident than he portrayed talking to the media. Look, I think they're going to go out and get a starting quarterback in the portal, or they're at least going to try to. They're definitely going to add a quarterback. They don't just have now 2 scholarship quarterbacks on the roster. They only have 2 quarterbacks, period. They don't even have a single walk-on. They had 3 last year. 1 graduated, and 2 transferred out. So they're just so low on numbers. They have to add somebody. And to me, Jake Merklinger, I think, is maybe capable of playing for Tennessee this year, but I don't think he's quite ready to be an effective starter. So I think you'll see Tennessee be aggressive here in the spring window and try to add a player that's capable of being a starting quarterback for him this fall. And just how aggressive they are will probably be a better indicator of just what Josh Heupel's confidence level is and the guys that are behind Nico.
So, Ryan, a lot of different teams' names had already been thrown out there in connection, not as far as they've had conversations with Nico, but just logically speaking, who needs quarterbacks and who may be interested in his services. A couple of those have since dropped off the list, like apparently North Carolina and Tulane are out on him, but USC, UCLA, Wisconsin, Syracuse, and several more would potentially be interested in his services. Are they taking a big risk bringing Nico into the locker room? I mean, if you're a coach and now that so many of these schools have player personnel GMs, would you even want to have somebody in your locker room who you now risk in the future this happening all over again?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I worry less about it in the locker room. Like, from everything I ever heard, I don't think Nico was a problem in Tennessee's locker room. I think for the most part, he was pretty well liked by his teammates. He's not the most outspoken guy, so from a leadership standpoint, I don't think that was necessarily a strength of his, but I never heard any issues about him being super disliked. I do think everything that kind of comes around it with his dad and some of the negotiating certainly would be a concern. And look, like, I think Josh Heupel probably handled last weekend well, but at the same time, Tennessee went across the country and they got a quarterback where they were basically got him just because they were the highest bidder, and then they lost him when they didn't, because he wanted more money. So I don't think you can be shocked that happened. Tennessee can't be shocked that it went down the way that it did, given how that they got him. And wherever or whoever goes after Nico and ends up landing him, I think they have to deal with that same question. That they have to know that there's a possibility that he could leave for more money down the road, or negotiations might be something that they have to deal with every offseason. So, it's a classic risk reward. What does any said team have at quarterback? Do they feel like they need a jump start at that position? Because certainly Nico's a talented guy, and I don't think he's going to be a cancer in the locker room or anything like that. But there are definitely some extracurriculars that would come with adding him, whether that be, maybe not particularly this offseason, but next offseason as you would move into a potential second season with Nico being the starter for whatever program.
Ryan, with your position and having a little bit of an inside view on the Nico situation, do you have any stories about Nico or anything that happened previously? The reason I ask is I was reading something on Saturday that talked about Nico skipping out on I believe it was a TV production quarterback meeting or something to that effect last season with production, and then maybe the Thursday or Friday before the game where he didn't show up to that. And obviously athletes, that's not part of their contract in terms of showing up to media, things like that. But have you heard anything else in Nico's time that maybe was a red flag for those out there who were surprised by this?
This isn't necessarily during Nico's time, but one that I think maybe matches the billing a little bit, and especially when you kind of look at the, I think, negotiating blunder by Nico's camp when you talk about him holding out of practice. But one I'd heard, way back when in 2022, that was the year before he got to Tennessee, but he's already committed. It really was Tennessee's breakout season under Josh Heupel, his second year. That I'd heard after Tennessee beat Alabama that year in the fall, which I think improved to 6-0 or 7-0 at that point. Best start in a number of years, probably at least 2 decades, if not more than that, for Tennessee. That Nico's camp had tried to renegotiate his contract at that point after Tennessee had beaten Alabama, which from just a pure negotiating standpoint never really seemed to make a whole lot of sense to me. I would have thought Tennessee was in a little bit more of a position of power at that point. They were having a bunch of success without Nico, but that was one from just pure trying to get more money, negotiating move that didn't really make a whole lot of sense. That I hadn't thought about it in a long time, but it popped back in my head this past weekend after everything went down the way that it had.
Talking to Ryan Schumpert. You can find him on Twitter at rschump, SCHUMP00. We heard the audio from Josh Heupel. I don't know if you also heard the audio from Mario Cristobal, essentially warning players on his roster, if you're thinking about holding out, just go ahead and get out. In your mind, number one, should Tennessee adopt basically a zero tolerance policy for holdouts? And in your mind, do you kind of see that coming down the road for a lot of teams in college football?
Yeah, I think probably so. And look, every situation's a little bit different, where I think there's almost two sides of the pendulum where it's like, all right, if you're a player that's not big time enough or not good enough of a player, if you're holding out, like, what are you doing? There's no way that anybody is going to be willing to put up with that. And maybe there's a middle ground of you're a cornerback, like Ricky Gibson, for instance. Tennessee's best cornerback, Jermon McCoy, he tore his ACL back in January. Ricky Gibson announced leaked through, I believe it was on three, that he, back before spring practice started, that he intended to enter the transfer portal in the spring period, which practice hadn't started yet, so he hadn't missed any practice, but he basically used that as a negotiation tool to try to get more money because Jermon McCoy was out and he was going to be questionable to be back for the start of the season, and Tennessee needed Gibson all the more now. And something like that, I think Tennessee was probably smart to negotiate and get it done. But I think it also goes to the full other side where Nico, in this case, for him to miss practice as the starting quarterback, going into his second year as the starting quarterback, as the face of the program, one of the leaders of the team, I just don't think you could really put up with that if you're Tennessee or in any other program, because I just think Nico would have lost his ability to lead if he had come back. And I think Josh Heupel probably would have lost the respect of a lot of the older players in his locker room if he gave in to some of Nico's demands and brought him back after he just skipped practice from a pure negotiation standpoint.
Ryan, kind of piggybacking off of that in terms of college football, the landscape of what's happening with NIL, with the transfer portal, what do you think this does for the sport of college football in terms of a tone that it may set, whether it be a good tone or bad going forward?
Yeah, I think that's a good question and a tough one to answer. I think really what will probably dictate that more is how Tennessee does in the fall. If Tennessee goes out and has another good season and wins 9 games or even 10 games and doesn't take a big step back, I think you'll see probably more teams, more programs willing to not put up with as much stuff for NIL demands when it comes to star players, because they'll say, all right, well, Tennessee didn't put up with it, and it worked well for them. It didn't cost them.
Yeah.
So I could see that potentially being an impact. But look, I think that's already the case at some schools. There's a different. Each school is different as far as what they're going to, where they draw the line for a talented player of how big an NIL is a priority for them, how willing they are to meet those demands. I know Kirby Smart has talked a lot about that. So I think that's one that will be interesting to see in time, and just how this specific situation affects it. I think it's too early to say, and I think we'll probably have a better idea when we see what Tennessee is able to eventually do at quarterback and how they're eventually able to fare this fall.
So, Ryan, where does your crystal ball project that he ends up? What do you project his valuation to be? I'd be shocked if he got the $4 million that he wanted going somewhere else, but you never know, man. These a lot of these coaches and programs, they get desperate at this time of year, not knowing who their starting quarterback is going to be.
You're right about that. UCLA would be my guess. I think the combination of the Southern California ties, the desperation, it seems like UCLA does really need a quarterback. Their program's in a spot where they could really use a jump start. So UCLA is the one that makes the most sense to me. USC makes sense to me too, but it doesn't seem like there's been a ton of interest from the Trojans camp. So I think UCLA is the most likely. I'm with you. Skeptical that he would get $4 million, but I would bet he gets around what he was making at Tennessee this past year, and maybe a marginal raise from that. He gets a little bit more, but yeah, to the $4 million point, that would be pretty surprising.
Ryan, great stuff, man. Really appreciate you taking time to join us today. A couple of our Tolos have already told us they're giving you a follow on Twitter, on X, and let's do it again soon.
Sounds great. Appreciate it, guys. And I'm noticing just from seeing the stream on Twitter here, I see that Paladins football flag behind Cole. So Roll Dins, my brother's a former Furman football player. That's my FCS football team. I love the Dins, love Coach Hendricks. So Roll Dins, and hopefully they can have a nice bounce back season this fall.
How about that? Where did you go? Did you go to Tennessee, Ryan?
I did. I went to Tennessee. My brother, we're from the Nashville area, and he played at Furman, I guess, 2014 to 2017. So his last season was Coach Hendricks' first season, and he had a great year with them. And obviously that was a really fun season as they got back to the FCS playoffs that year.
That is awesome. That is a great story. Appreciate it, man. That's Ryan Schumpert, Rocky Top Insider. Fantastic stuff. And a little Furman tie to throw in there. And that is awesome. I have a picture to share on the stream on the other side. Also, who did you watch the Masters with? A cool story, probably the top of one of my sports moments of who I watched the Masters with. If you haven't already seen that on Twitter, I'll tell you next. did you watch the Masters with on Sunday, the final round a year ago, Diesel? You and I were at Rob Brown's house watching the Masters tournament, which didn't have that historic ending with Scotty Scheffler just lapping the field almost and winning by 4 strokes, 5 strokes, whatever he won by a year ago. But, you and I have a pretty cool job. We get to talk about sports, go to sporting events, be a part of sporting events. And Sunday, I was at the Bristol race up in Tennessee, and Kyle Larson won the race. And I was in the media center during the post-race interview, and it's not like a football game where you have chairs and rows, or a basketball game and you're all sitting side by side. You're all at your work desk, which face like this way and all different ways. And then the winner is up at the front of the room. So you're asking questions from your seat. So all the media and NASCAR availability, they're handed a microphone and they're interviewing Jeff Gordon and Kyle Larson and his crew chief and so on and so forth. So during the interview, I noticed Kyle Larson toward the end. He started looking toward me. I thought he was looking at me. I was like, what's he doing looking at me? What's this guy? He's got some beef with me or something. I mean, I know I have a big head.
Like the cut of your jib.
Right. Well, what's his problem? I know I have a big head. And I mean, either I'm really ugly or really good looking. I'm like, this guy he don't look like he needs to be here.
That's a guy who puts Chick-fil-A sauce on French fries.
Right. And I was like, I don't know what he's looking at. Well, I realized that my laptop, I left the Masters on it. I was watching the Masters with Shane Connick before Larson walked in. Well, I realized he was watching the Masters. So the press conference ended, and he makes a beeline to me, to my laptop, right? And he watches the last hole standing there beside me, and I was asked the very first – he must have been a Bryson fan. The very first question, he walked up to me, Kyle Larson said, what happened to Bryson? And I had to break the news to Kyle Larson, Diesel, that Bryson put a couple in the water, right? Didn't have the best day on Sunday in the final round. And pretty much choked. Kyle Larson was pretty disappointed that Bryson wasn't there, but I had to explain to him that Rose and McIlroy were in the playoff. So I'm sitting there on Sunday afternoon getting to watch the Masters, the final round with the guy who just won the NASCAR race. It was one of those moments. It was pretty cool for me. The guy behind me snapped a picture of it, and it's a pretty cool picture. We get to do a lot of cool things as radio show host and meet new people and meet famous sporting or famous athletes. And that one was pretty cool for me to be able to say that I watched the final round of the Masters, the final playoff hole with Kyle Larson. I'm thankful. The guy behind me, I told him like 3 times. I said, really, thank you for getting that picture because it wouldn't be a cool story. I got a picture of it. It's a neat picture. So
I love the that's not really breaking the fourth wall photo, but it's sort of the third person watching. Yeah. I love those kinds of photos. Yep. I love, seeing people on set, but then you see the cameras behind them, the full setup that shows you. Like when you're watching somebody on television, obviously we have the best of the best equipment here at the Fan Upstate. But when you get to see like just how much goes into production wise, just putting an interview on national television, the amount of cameras, the type of cameras and the amount of lighting that they have in those rigs, it's crazy. So to do that, to be able to step back one layer and see that's
like
special.
You're seeing it, from your cat. It was cool, man. We sometimes Diesel and I, we get involved and we do this show every day and we forget that, man, we get paid to cover, sports for a living. And it's pretty cool. Speaking of photos, I wanted to share this, though, before we run to a break. One of our Tolos, Zach, sent me this, direct messaged me. I asked him if it was okay to share, Diesel. What would you do if you walked outside to your backyard area and you saw this? If you're watching on the stream, you can see the picture. 242 Tolos watching right now.
Wow.
For those not looking or not watching, rather, that are listening.
I'm trying to see what kind of snake that is.
It's a big one is what kind of snake it is.
It looks like
it's a BFS.
Yeah. Or as some people call them, nope rope. It looks like a black rat snake, which can get big. Black rat snakes are not a threat to people. They're not venomous.
See, I don't believe it. I still hate them. I can't.
Oh, come on! They keep rats away.
I don't care. I want them to keep themselves away. For those not watching the stream, Zach's in the picture. He walked outside today. He's got a pretty bird's nest, a bird box, and there is a pretty big snake trying to steal, I guess, some eggs out of there, right?
Right, go out there and grab that snake, yank him out of that
No.
box. Can't
Would you
let him have
grab
the eggs. Yeah.
Oh,
No,
there's no way.
I'd use a stick.
See, if that were
I'd
my
use a
house,
stick.
that bird nest, the box, the fence
Napalm
would be it'd be damaged from the shotgun blast. it'd be holes all in it. I just couldn't do it. I hate snakes.
Really?
Oh, I
didn't
can't
know that
stand
about you. I own snakes.
Well, I know you do. I can't. They freak me out. I don't like any of them.
Oh,
I don't care if
come
they're
on.
black.
They're natural.
Non-venomous.
It's okay.
I don't know. I don't
You
like
know, I blame organized religion for giving snakes a bad rap. They actually do something really important for us. When we come back, Cole, let's do something not important but fun at the same time. We didn't get a chance to get to it yesterday or last week, as I realized as we were doing show prep early today. Let's do a long-awaited Marketplace Monday on a Tuesday with the weirdest and most overpriced items we can find on Facebook Marketplace as far as sports are concerned. That's next on the Fan Upstate. Ooh, Cole, my college buddy who I talk football with all the time, just asked me a question. I just had to take a wild stab in the dark. He said, "What do you think the absolute max most amount of money App State, and by extension your school, whoever you are, would ever actually be able to pay somebody to come there? Like, what do you think the max your school could and would pay is?" And that's a difficult question to get. Yeah, right. It's a scary question. You know, I mean, I ventured to guess, and I think this maybe is high. Maybe I'm not even close.
Yeah,
but I said like $500K
for
is the most they could not have, but could. I'm just thinking about the collective and their ability to raise funding for the right kind of player. I think $500K is probably the tippy top max, but
it is interesting.
Close to that.
Yeah, it's tough for those that don't have the resources to. I mean, it just kind of the playing field's been so tilted, and it's only going to get worse.
Well, as soon as you get paid, $25K to go somewhere and have a good season, a Power 5 is going to come along and quadruple it, and you can't compete with that anymore.
Yeah, it's tough.
Speaking of not being able to compete with that, we go to the phone lines, bring on JD, who's got something to say about something. JD, what's on your mind?
Hey, gentlemen, thanks for taking my call. First of all, I've got two things. Okay. Number one is Diesel. Listen, you can make fun of Cole for dipping Lay's potato chips and ketchup all you want, but I worked at Chick-fil-A, and the only way to eat Chick-fil-A fries is dipped in Chick-fil-A sauce, my friend.
Well, I think in Cole's family, ketchup counts as hot sauce.
I've never loved
spicy.
I've never loved JD more than I do today. I've never loved them more.
Sucking up on a Tuesday. I can't believe it, JD.
I did it last night. The Chick-fil-A fries, man. You've got to be in the See, I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad, JD, that we have something in common.
You know what's funny, Cole and JD? What he's doing is essentially Canadian, because poutine is Canadian. It's like gravy and mayonnaise. That's what they dip their French fries in. So I didn't realize Cole was engaging in seditious behavior of dipping his French fries in mayonnaise.
You never know.
Right. Well, Chick-fil-A sauce is actually, it's like a honey and mustard and barbecue blend.
But it's white. Tell me how that works.
Inside secret.
Jello.
It's not yellow.
Yeah, it is. You ate it.
That's the lightest color yellow I've ever seen.
I will make fun of Cole from now until the day kingdom comes about dipping Lay's potato chips in ketchup.
So good.
Hey, you got to ease up on the Chick-fil-A fries and Chick-fil-A sauce, because that's the only way to eat them.
If you're taking culinary advice from somebody who has the same palate as my 4-year-old niece, potato chips, ketchup.
I sat at the bar at Dave & Buster's with JD.
I bet he loves goldfish too.
No, I like Wells better, thank you. But JD brought me last April, the night of the draft, right? You brought me ketchup and Lay's, and they thought I wouldn't do it. I think you were there. You maybe had just left.
Yeah, I was there.
I sat at the bar and dipped them in ketchup.
I made you eat that, Cole. I did. I was like, I got to see this. I was like, I've never seen this before. I was like, I got to see it.
It was so
good. I got
to
see it.
So
all right, and so hey, let's kick off the Facebook Marketplace though, real quick. Or the marketplace, or the market value. So, ladies and gentlemen, coming up for bid on The Price is Right, I offer you a Hawaiian quarterback who threw for 104 yards in his only college football playoff appearance. He is available for a mere $4 million. We will open up the bidding. The closest without going over wins. And y'all be blessed. Nice stress.
Oh, that's a good question, JD.
Nico on Marketplace Monday.
Oh, wow, he might be out there. These guys are on a national registry. It's Facebook Marketplace, but for talent. Truthfully speaking, Cole, what would you guess? Price is Right rules without going over. How much will Nico get wherever he ends up going? There's a couple of Big Ten schools that are suitors.
Yeah.
There's some ACC schools that are suitors. How much do you genuinely believe Nico will get? He was getting 2.5 at Tennessee.
I don't think he'll be
like North Carolina, UCLA, Southern Cal, Wisconsin.
If he was getting 2.5, which is just wild to think of. How wild is that to think that 2.5 wasn't enough for this college quarterback? But I would say it's going to come in right at 3. He's going to come in at 3. Yeah, I think so. I'm going to go 2.
He can't reward him for this.
I know we cannot. We should not. I'm going to go somewhere 2.9. He's going to come in close to 3.
See, I don't think he gets what he was getting in Tennessee.
Well, that's embarrassing.
I think, yeah. Well, I mean, look, college coaches are going to see what he did at Tennessee and say, I don't want that smoke. And I think the max he gets is 1.7.
So he's making less.
I think he's going to get less.
What an idiot.
I mean, come on.
I hope you're right, by the way.
We need to teach this guy a lesson, right? We need to make an example out of him. Is I'm trying to get this right. FAFO. Since we're doing acronyms that people on the stream can decipher, blank around and find out. I think that's what's going to happen. I think he's going to lose money on this. I genuinely do. Texter says, Tolo on the stream says Chick-fil-A sauce is not white. I'm looking at pictures of it. Okay, it's a little more yellow.
It's yellow.
It's a little more yellow than I thought it was. And JD was right. It's mayonnaise, barbecue sauce, yellow mustard, honey, and lemon juice with some Dijon and garlic powder and other things like that.
Maybe I am going to be wrong, but you know what? Like JD on the text line said, no chance he gets 3. He'll get less. I don't know, man. I just think there's somebody out there stupid enough. Do you know how many stupid people are in this world, man? Like I think there's somebody out there stupid that's going to do something stupid and pay him something stupid. That's the word of the day, word of the segment.
Texter wants to know, why am I hating on goldfish? I'm not hating on goldfish. I just said that my 4-year-old niece loves goldfish, and I bet Cole does too.
I do like goldfish. Goldfish are a good snack, but if you've had whales, I don't even know if they make them anymore.
Are you saying whales with an H or wells?
Whales.
Whales. With a WH.
W-A, yeah.
I don't even know what whales are.
Is that how you say?
No, it's not how I say it. I'm just over.
Whales are like.
What do you think about wheat thins?
They're just really they're more salty, and it's a different fish, right?
Whales.
You never heard?
I've never heard.
They
of whales.
They may not make them anymore. They may not. I don't know. Maybe Tom in Somerville, who wants to weigh in before we get to our Marketplace Monday on Tuesday. What's up, Tom?
Hey guys.
Hey Tom.
Diesel, you remember back in the fall when I told you to watch out for Gio Lopez?
Uh-huh.
Well, here's the thing about Nico. North Carolina's done with that fiasco.
Mm-hmm.
And Gio Lopez is going to be a Tar Heel next year. So you're already starting to see schools back off of these high demands. And I don't blame him because he's not worth it. And, you're going to start to see some of these schools pivot. And, I don't necessarily think this is going to be a Nico holdout anymore. I think you're going to start to see a lot of these schools band together and just say,
good.
Yeah.
We're out.
Hope so.
I mean, it's getting to that point with this situation. And I don't know how much of this was on Nico as it was his agent and his parents, because, this whole situation deserves a 30 for 30 in itself.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I don't know if y'all heard, but, Dan Lanning said it himself. He called Josh Heupel because Nico's dad reached out to him. So,
yeah, Tom, I do wish that conferences would band together and put out a no holdout policy, like a zero tolerance policy. But the problem with that, Tom, is that now if a conference has a across the board policy, that could be sued in court and seen as restricting player movement. If you're not allowing them to use everything at their disposal to negotiate and get what they want, that could be seen. And I'm not a lawyer here, but I could easily see how that could be argued as restricting player movement.
And I'll throw one more in there, Tom. You're right. I agree with everything you said. However, with anything in life, everybody's against it until when you talk about conferences banding together, everybody's against it until it helps them. until it benefits
Sure,
them.
it's that old prisoner's dilemma, you know, where someone else is going to pay him a lot of money, so we need to pay him more money than they are, even though he's just shown himself to be, to be a greedy, arrogant idiot.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I do believe some schools going to get desperate enough to pay 2.5, maybe 3.
Hey, Tom, real quick before we let you go, I asked this question at 3:20. I don't know if you were listening. I know Somerville's on a different time zone than we are, but I'm kidding. How many? Very simple question here. How many games do the 5-11 Atlanta Braves win this season?
87.
Whoa.
They're gonna get 87. They're gonna get hot.
That's
when
a
it
lot.
matters.
Plus 500 by a
They're
couple of
gonna
games.
get hot when it matters. They're a bit healthy. They'll make a push in the second half of the year, and they'll sneak in the playoff. Don't worry.
Wow. Okay.
Appreciate
Thanks,
you, Tom.
It's confident.
All
Real quick,
right.
by the way, before we get into it, that's Wales on the stream. You ever seen that before?
Let me get this Wales. I don't know that I've ever seen what
Yep.
Stouffer's made. Wales?
Wales.
Wales. Texter says, why are you saying it so weird?
Whoa. What?
Texter says Nico will end up at a school with a coach on the hot seat that has to win this year. So that would be the profile of where I think he could
Good point.
go.
Good
Really
point.
interesting point. Let's jump into Marketplace Monday, Cole, as we have just finished up with the Masters. A lot of people went down to Augusta and spent a lot of money, as evidenced by this very short clip. They did kind of a man on the street interviewing patrons leaving the team store or leaving the Augusta National store, asking them how much money they spent on
what's your name?
merchandise.
How much did you spend in there? Roughly $1,700. Almost my whole month's savings.
Do I have to be honest? Or about 2,000.
$800 today.
800?
About 2,000.
2,000.
That goes on and on and on and on and on. Everybody's walking out of there dropping a G.
Doesn't surprise me.
Just about, which means, Cole, there's a lot of merchandise available from Augusta on Facebook Marketplace, especially in our era.
Ooh, I need to look.
So,
That's a good
yeah, I
idea.
mean, there's a ton of it out there.
Good-
So let me ask you,
good
what
call
do
there.
you think the value on Facebook or the asking price of a 2025 limited edition men's Augusta National Masters watch is? It's a numbered watch, number 28 of 1,800. It says here, can't verify this, that it is the lowest numbered watch from this run on the market. It comes in a nice wooden box. What would you say that this
one's tough.
this watch is listed as?
I have no idea. That's why it's so.
I know.
It's
It's
gotta
a
be-
nice looking watch.
It's got to be expensive
Mhm.
if it's from the Masters. It was just purchased, I'm sure, 2 days ago, 3 days ago.
Mhm.
And what's so special about the watch? Remind me.
Limited edition, 1,800 made. This
Oh,
one is
God.
number 28. The weird thing about that, Cole, is they release multiple watches every year, and they're all limited edition. This is just one
Sure.
of them. I mean, it's a really nice looking watch. I would wear this thing for sure.
I have no idea.
I know.
This is gonna be so hard. I'm gonna narrow it down. It's in the hundreds, but it's below 1,000. Am I in the right ballpark?
I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's below 1,000.
You'd be right. I'll give
Okay.
you that. It's below 1,000.
Okay, I'm going to go in the hundreds, but below 1,000. So I'm on the right track. I'm going to go. I'm staring into space, trying to think of how much with my eyes closed.
It's
now.
kind of hard when you can't see the watch.
It is hard. I am going to go $650.
Oh my God. It's listed for $600.
Oh,
It's
so
been
close.
reduced already from
Oh, my-
$725 to $600.
No way.
So I think these people are realizing, man, I'm not going to sell this thing for what I paid for it.
It's already been reduced.
Already been reduced.
And it's listed right now for $600.
$600.
How much would you pay for it?
I'm not really a fancy watch guy. You know, I've got an Apple
I
Watch.
don't wear watches at all.
I mean, I would like to be a watch guy. I don't know anything about watches. I genuinely don't. I'd be happy going getting one off the street in New York City
Me too.
for
Me
$50.
too. Yeah.
Wear it for a little while. If it starts to tarnish after a while,
Who cares?
I don't care.
Yeah, it's
I'd
cheap.
feel like a a D bag walking around with, a couple $100 on my wrist.
That's funny.
Not
I don't know. I'm not a watch guy. You see, I don't wear much. All right, mine I have for you. I know we're running up against it here in a few minutes, so I'll be quick with this one. Diesel, this one's a South Carolina Gamecock flavor. This is a USC signed frame sports memorabilia. It is the Carolina 5. It is a picture of Williams-Brice Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Here it is, the description. Numbered picture from 2013.
Okay.
With wooden USC frame. That gives the size. It's 19 by 42, so it's pretty big.
Yep.
It reads Carolina 5. It's a panoramic picture, right, of the stadium.
I love those.
Really
I
cool.
love those.
It was taken on November 30th, 2013, when number 10 ranked South Carolina, who have had the nation's longest home winning streak at 18 games, defeated the Clemson Tigers 31-17. The victory was 5 in a row.
The fifth in the. Oh,
that's right. And it let me tell you. It has a certificate of authenticity certifying that the item was signed by Jadeveon Clowney.
Wow.
Here's a picture of it. I'm going to show you on the stream.
Okay.
Don't look at my phone.
I just think of Tommy Boy. I could take a dump in a box and mark it guaranteed. I'm going
to bring it up slowly so you don't see the price.
Man, that's a nice frame too.
Nice, man.
Autographed by Jadeveon, certified authentic in a high quality frame that's custom to this. I'm going to say this item is listed on Facebook Marketplace at $400.
You'd be a little high.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you would.
Really?
Yeah,
is a star falling that? No, it's $250.
$250 on the dot.
Wow.
$250 on the dot. And
interesting.
Listen, I'm not a this is in Blythewood where the items listed.
Mm-hmm.
This would be a great one to have in the studio, man. I don't know if our boss would be okay. Like it's even got the on the backside the letter of the certificate of authenticity.
See, that worries me so many times because I watched a YouTube video once about how many people fake certificates of authenticity because people want to believe that they're buying something special, and the truth is, for a lot of items, there's not that much out there that's truly special, and scammers know that you want to buy something.
I like
that's
authenticated. I like that. That's a cool picture. It's the fifth in a row. A lot of Gamecock fans out there would like that.
Here's another one with a little bit of a Gamecock flair, Cole. A Clemson. I know. Don't let me finish here.
Okay.
A Clemson baseball hat. It's the classic purple top, orange bill, cursive C on the front, tiger paw and Omaha on the back. Autographed by Monty Lee.
They will pay you to come take this hat. God, this can't be real. It's on Facebook.
It's on Facebook Marketplace.
What you need to do is send the guy a message. Look, I know you need money. How much do you need? I'll give you a couple $100 to pay your bills or buy your dinner.
Can I pay you in canned goods?
This is all my that. I'm going to say
because we know Clemson fans ain't going to buy it.
No,
South Carolina fans hate him right now.
$25.
Bingo on the head.
On the head, $25. I mean, what is a
that might be the most unique item.
That one's
that you could find on Facebook Marketplace right now. Cole, do you have one more? Because I have one more. That's another.
I do have
one
more.
Oddball.
I've got to find it. You go first. I've got mine somewhere.
Okay. So, again, I told you in the break that this might be the weirdest item I've ever found. Weirder than a signed Monty Lee Clemson baseball hat. This is a service that someone is willing to do for you. It's not a product. It's a service. So you're not buying a tangible thing. This is the service of having someone come by your house and paint via a stencil a 33-inch by 33-inch tiger paw on your driveway, sidewalk, or garage floor. Again, he's not selling the stencil. He's selling the painted tiger paw that you would pay him to come and paint. So you have two options here, Cole. Option one is how much would it charge him just to come and do the stencil? Let's say you bought the paint, you want him to come and stencil it. Number two is how much would it cost if he brings the paint?
If he brings, this is the dumbest thing. If he brings the paint, $300.
Oh, come on.
Way off.
Way off.
What?
Way off.
You're going to say more?
No, it's not.
Okay, good.
It's way less.
If he brings the paint, $75,
$50.
$50. If he doesn't bring the paint,
40. Yeah, he's like, I'm going to use about $10 worth of paint.
what an idiot!
Was he just going to go buy a couple of cans of spray paint and just spray a Tiger Paw on your garage
That's
floor?
rough.
Imagine buying a house, Cole. If you're a South Carolina fan or a Tennessee fan or a Georgia fan, you go to buy a house and there's a Tiger Paw painted on the garage floor and you can't get that thing up.
Some might pay extra for it. You never know. I lied. I couldn't find my last one, but
That's fair.
Madcraft, can we come to you on the other side? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
But listen, real quick. Hey, real quick. You would be terrible at never mind. Get to me.
All
on
right,
the
other side. Shut up.
already.
Just shut up. Shut up, Madcraft. We'll come to you next and get a first look at the.
Womp.
That was disappointing. First look at the NBA playoffs as well next.
Hey, Tolos, are you looking at one of life's big purchases coming down the pipe at you? A new house, a new car. Maybe it's something fun you want, like a new RV or an ATV or a boat. Well, you need to get my friends over at MTC Federal Credit Union on your side. You just know that if you get them on your side, they're going to create a custom loan just for you.
The NBA playoffs are set pretty much, other than some play-in games tonight and tomorrow, I believe. And then on Saturday, the actual playoffs will begin. So we'll give our first look at the NBA playoffs and what we think might happen. But before we do that, let's go back to the phone lines. 844-FAN-PHONE, 844-326-3663, where Madcraft wants to weigh in. He held on through the break, so he gets 3 brownie points for that. What's up, Madcraft?
The price is right. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, you struggled with that.
The price is right. The price is right. Listen, a couple of things I wanted to say. One, to Tom. Tom, I'm so proud of you, man. You finally done hopped on my positivity train, and now we're going to get things rolling. That's good. I knew you was going to come with that. But anyway, number two is I believe that we should stop using the S word that you've been throwing around, Cole. So we're going to start using the term silly goose material. That's what we're going to start using. Now, I want all Tolos.
What S word?
But that's stupid.
Oh, have I used that?
He didn't like the word stupid.
You said it was the word of the day.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Now let's just go with silly goose material.
Okay.
So anyway, look, I just want all the Tolos to know that when we were having this conversation about how many games the Braves would win, I want all the Tolos to know that's not how this conversation started. It started with Cole ranting to me about how I was silly goose material because I didn't believe Phil Mickelson was a top 5 golfer of all time.
No, I know that's not what I said. I said top 10. I said top 10.
Top 10. Okay, fine.
There you go. See, you're always trying to you try to twist what people say.
The price is wrong, Bobby.
You're the worst.
Hey, listen, go Spartanburgers. Open today, baby. Love y'all.
See ya,
Thanks,
Madcraft. Appreciate that. Are you going, Madcraft? Let us know on the stream if you are. He better be. I mean, I don't know if he is or not.
If he's going, he better have bought his tickets like last week.
Yeah, they've been sold out for a while.
Sold out.
They've been sold out. I don't know when they sold out, but Tolos, if you right now are en route or headed to Spartanburg to watch the first ever championship. I'm reading something, and I said what I was reading. The first ever game at the Hub City Spartanburgers Fifth Third Park. Let us know. Let us know that you might be headed that way, that you might be going.
Is it true that you'll read anything that people put on the teleprompter?
It is. I do it a lot when I'm on the phone riding down the road. So I'll be on the phone with somebody and I'll read a billboard and I'll
Go
say
bleep yourself, San Diego.
I'll see what's on the billboard and I'll say it out loud. It's the worst. I was reading championships just now and I said it and you think like, what are you talking about? It didn't make any sense. So I've done that a time or two. I don't know. That's a bad habit. I've got to. Yeah, I will. I will read pretty much anything on the teleprompter. I know that's not good on me, but whatever. What was that movie where that was
Anchorman.
Anchorman.
That was Anchorman.
Thank God, that's a good movie, right? See, look at me. I do watch some movies.
JD says, "I love Lamp."
He says what? I love Lamp. All right, let's take
do you really love the Lamp, or are you just looking at things and saying you love them?
Let's take our first look at the NBA postseason of what's happening tonight. Obviously, there are a couple of play-in games before this thing kicks off, and then we'll have the actual playoff game starting on Saturday, which is what, the 19th? Is that right? Saturday? Yeah, the 19th. So tonight, these play-in games you mentioned earlier, Diesel, I don't have much of a vested interest in Atlanta versus the Magic tonight at 7:30. And then Grizzlies-Warriors is interesting because, number one, you get to see what celebration Ja Morant's going to use tonight, right? Who he's going to
do a rocket launcher?
Did you see what he did last week? Have you seen the latest? You joked about that. Have you seen the latest?
The grenade thing, right?
Pulling the pin and throwing the grenade. Like,
I mean, somehow that feels less violent than doing a
less violent. It's a grenade.
Grenades actually do far less damage than what the movies make it look like. They make it look like you throw a grenade and it's going to make like a 30-foot fireball.
Yeah, I'm still scared of him.
I'd love to find out, though.
Ja Morant, what celebration will he do tonight? How many people will he blow up tonight in his celebrations? I know that's terrible to say, but that's, again, he's the one.
I think he should do the Gatling gun.
Oh, my God.
Where he does bring up the rope of bullets and you close the thing,
Yeah.
and you go.
Do you think he knows what that is? Do you think he knows what that is? I don't know if John Moran knows what Gatling gun. So tonight you have the Hawks and the
Apparently he's an
Magic.
expert.
You have the Grizzlies and the Warriors at 10 o'clock tomorrow. You have the Heat and the Bulls at 7:30. The Mavericks Kings at 10 o'clock tomorrow. And then Friday will be the 8th seed game in the East and the 8th seed game in the West. We'll find out exactly who gets in. And then in terms of the actual playoffs, what game? Look, the first round, Diesel, when it comes to the NFL or the NBA, any tournament other than March Madness, the first round usually doesn't have the most intriguing matchups. High school especially, you have to kind of weed through those first round to get the good ones. However, I will say Timberwolves Lakers is really fascinating. A fascinating matchup that starts on Saturday night at 8:30 with the Lakers being revamped, obviously with the addition of Luka. They're going to be fun to watch in the playoffs. And then you have a guy in Anthony Edwards who people want to be the next Michael Jordan. People want Anthony Edwards to be the next guy. They've compared him to Michael in the killer instincts, the way he plays, the way he talks and walks. And Anthony Edwards is a phenomenal player. He's nowhere in the Michael Jordan conversation yet, but you have to beat the Lakers in order to start etching your name into history. I do like this Lakers-Timberwolves matchup because you get to find out just how good this new Lakers team is in the postseason. We know LeBron and Austin Reeves have been phenomenal, but you throw in Luka. And Luka now being on this team in the postseason, man, they're going to be a tough team to defend. I don't know how well they'll be able to defend because Luka's not known for his defense, but I do think the Lakers-Timberwolves Diesel is the matchup that I circle there in the first round.
Yeah, you know, to your point about having to weed through some bad series to start the playoffs, at the risk of having 5 people text in and say Diesel hates sports, why do we have to suffer through bad series?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, why? Why do we have to do that? We don't have to do that. We've only done that because we've expanded the playoffs in every sport to make more money off of it, right?
More money. Well, there's your answer, right?
Yeah,
There's
the
your
answer is more money.
money.
So it's unlikely for it to change. I'm just saying, if we know these are not going to be good matchups, then why even bother playing them in the first place? Why waste people's time with bad basketball when you could just jump straight to the second round where you got good basketball? That's what I'm interested in. No, I mean, it's always interesting to see what Giannis is going to do in the playoffs. I mean, the dude is an absolute monster, has been for a long time. I think a lot more of the conversation, not that he doesn't already get a lot of flowers, but a lot more conversation should center around Giannis. And look, he's a happy guy. He is his positivity is infectious when he's on and when he's winning. I think the guy could be a face for the NBA. Maybe there's some people who are like, he's not from America, I'm not really going to pay attention to it. And that's wrong because he is, such an impressive player.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in watching the Bucks. And I love the fact that he's been loyal to his team for as long as he has, because I guarantee you he's had options to leave.
Shane Barrett on the YouTube stream says, I hate Nico Harrison so much. You and about 800,000 other Mavs fans, Shane. You're right. It's only going to get worse if you're a Mavs fan. I will say this. I told you going into the Masters what I wanted to happen. I'll tell you what I don't want to happen, but I'm a little afraid that it will, Diesel. In my mind, the Boston Celtics are unbeatable. We saw them win the championship last year. I'm afraid that they're unbeatable again this year. I'm afraid that nobody's gonna beat Boston. And you know what? I told you I want to see Rory. I told you Thursday I wanted to see Rory on Sunday. I would love to see Lakers Celtics in the NBA championship. You talk about 2 blue bloods that have been around championships for a long, long time that I think would be really good for the sport if you could get it. I know Oklahoma City's been the favorite in the West all season long, but didn't the Lakers just beat Oklahoma City by like 40 the other night? So I don't know. I think the Lakers will make a deep run. Boston out of the East, though, to your point about the Bucks with Giannis, they're going to be tough. The Pacers are not bad at all. They're a sneaky team. Boston's just so deep, so talented. The Boston Celtics will be in the NBA championship, and Diesel, I want to see them play against the Lakers because when you talk about legacy and talk about having big moments of NBA finals, we hadn't had a good finals lately because we got so spoiled with Cleveland and Golden State a few years ago. having Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown versus Luka and LeBron. Look, for me, I'd be like a kid in the candy shop.
Well, you got the legacy additional. You got the Boston versus LA legacy, and that's still a big deal to a lot of the old school fans. Yes,
they hate each other.
Texter says, "I will immediately stop listening to and will discredit any man that uses the phrase silly goose material."
That's what Madcraft said. Is that what is that?
That's what Madcraft said. So I guess
I have to use that instead of the S word.
Yeah, he said don't do that.
Is that bad of me to say? I mean, is that
stupid?
No, I'm not calling. I mean, did I call somebody stupid? Maybe I did. I think it was related to Nico. But again, Madcraft, I'll use.
Yeah, but what Nico did was stupid. You're talking about Nico Iamaleava or Harris?
Both Nikos.
Because
if your name's Nico, one Nico left Tennessee for possibly less money. The other Nico woke up one day and said, "You know what? I'm going to trade away the best player on the planet." That's a good idea. That's what one Nico did. So I guess I don't know why it is, but it seems like if your name's let's see. Shane says because the 8 seed Warriors beat the 1 seed Mavs. What do you mean, Shane? You're talking about last year?
Is he talking about that's why we have an additional round in the playoffs?
I don't know. Little more happens. By the way, Shane,
sure what you mean, Shane,
good to hear from you. It's been a while.
Yeah,
Shane,
welcome.
Listening from where Tuscaloosa? Is that right? I believe Tuscaloosa is where Shane does listen from now. Is where he relocated to after he left Greenville. But Shane, appreciate you listening from Alabama, if that's where you're listening from. I will say, Diesel, I think now that we've seen a full season, I'll tell you what I think happens. I think the Celtics probably win it all. Denver, obviously, they're in the playoffs, but they don't have a coach. It's an interesting story, not having a coach in the playoffs. With a recent change and their coach, Michael Malone, getting fired. I like Boston to – I don't want to say –
who's the interim for Denver?
I don't know who their interim is. I don't know who they placed. Maybe P.J. Hall, maybe the Dorman product. They said, hey, look, we know we're not giving you enough minutes. We'll make you the interim, right?
David Adelman?
David, okay. David's the interim.
Yeah.
It shouldn't matter. Look, the reality is they have Nikola Jokic. They shouldn't need a coach, but – obviously there were some tensions there. So I'll tell you what I think happens. I think Boston makes it out of the East fairly easily. They'll have to get past New York, which I do think if New York beats Detroit in the first round, that could be a good series. Cleveland's been really good this year. Cleveland, Milwaukee. I really think the second round of the NBA playoffs is going to be a lot of fun because you might see Kawhi Leonard against SGA and the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Lakers potentially against the Warriors or the Rockets. I want to see, though, LeBron and the Lakers go get it done. You know, I'm a big LeBron guy. I would love to see LeBron go to the NBA Finals, Diesel, beat the Celtics. And if that were to happen, I will say as much as I love LeBron playing or seeing LeBron play, if LeBron were to go beat this Boston team, I think he should retire. Just hang it up.
Oh.
You can't go out any other way, man. This Boston team's stacked.
Who did we ask that very question about last week?
Was it Matt Smith with Smitty?
I think so. Ask him, what would he do? And they said LeBron's going to play for a couple more years. Not end it this year, but a couple more years. He is still in great physical condition.
It might have been now that I think about it, I know I want the NBA Insider for Clutch Points.
Right. Yeah.
Gosh, I'm terrible with names. Zach Breeze on the Facebook stream says, I need Lillard to get a ring. I don't think that's going to happen, Zach. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think that happens. I don't. Why do you need him to get a ring? Are you a big Dame guy, a big Dame fan? So I'm going to go Boston to win it all. Boston back-to-back champions is my prediction. I would absolutely be a little girl, screaming little girl if the Lakers could get it done because of LeBron. I think they have a legit shot, but that's what I want to happen.
Well, he's got the best 2 in the game, right?
He's got man.
Whose team is it really? I mean,
yeah,
with Luka. Luka's the most talented young player on the team.
But then what's wild is Austin Reeves has been scoring more than anybody. And Austin Reeves, the old farmer boy from Arkansas that just took the NBA by storm, AR-15, man, he can light it up. They're a fun team to watch. I'm excited. I love the NBA.
On the other side of the break, we'll take a whip around the sports world, see what else is happening out there in our daily wires. Every day we do deep dives on the topics that get you, the Tolos, talking, but there's a lot more going on out in the sports world, Cole. We call these our daily wires. Here's the buzz. The Atlanta Braves beat the Blue Jays last night 8-4. They're now 5-11 on the season. Austin Riley has been on fire over the last 8 games. He's now hitting, over the last 8 games, he's hitting 400 with 3 home runs, 8 RBIs, and 2 extra base hits. Through the first 8 games of the season, he was hitting just 161. So Austin Riley's bat getting hot. If you haven't seen the video yet, Cole, in their honorary invitation to the White House, Vice President J.D. Vance fumbled the national championship trophy. He dropped both the top portion and the base, not realizing that it was a 2-piece trophy. The top was caught by an Ohio State player standing behind him. The base actually hit the ground.
I didn't see it. It was funny as can be. You better be glad the base hit the ground, and not the trophy. The trophy's huge, by the way.
Yeah, thing's like 2 feet tall.
It's big, and you better be glad he had some good hands there. It's called Allstate because that was close.
Who decided it was a good idea? Let's take this 1.5 foot long chunk of metal and let's detach it from its base so that it could just tip over and fall.
You would think it would be one piece.
You would think that it would lock in or something. Cole, if you haven't heard this yet, Matt Rule has released some advice for players considering entering the transfer portal. I think this is pretty solid advice. Here's what Matt said.
I just asked 2 things. That you make the decision based on the right information. And don't come to me later and say, well, they told me this, but they end up doing that. There's stories everywhere. And that's why if you've been here and you trust us, then if we tell you, hey, this is where we see you, then you probably should listen to that as opposed to somebody out there. Everyone out there always has something better for you. You know what I mean? Everybody's always got a better scheme, a quicker way to do this, a faster way to do that. There really is no quick fix, quick way to getting there. So make sure you're listening to the right information and then do it the right way. Too many people, outside people, parents, coaches, we're always trying to find a better situation. But if you really are an NFL player or you're really a great player, you'll make your situation good enough by just getting better.
Solid advice.
I love it. I love that.
Everybody's going to offer you a bigger, better deal. Not every bigger, better deal is legitimately a bigger, better deal than what you got here in Nebraska.
You need to frame that. Frame that audio.
Put it in the Louvre, as they say.
That is just fantastic.
Last night in the WNBA draft, Paige Beckers was drafted number 1 by the Dallas Wings. 3 Gamecocks were drafted last night. Tahina Paopao, Bree Hall, and Sanaya Fagan all drafted last night in the 2nd round of the WNBA draft.
If you want to have a very good shot, if you're really, really good, and you want to have a very good shot, Diesel, of playing in the WNBA, playing for Dawn Staley has proven to get you there. 3 players drafted. That's insane.
Dawn's been there long enough, Cole. I would love to know the statistics on how many players she's put in the WNBA. Because remember, Nick Saban used to always brag about putting guys in the NFL. That was one of his big talking points. You come play for me, I'll put you in the NFL. So I'd love to see a side-by-side comparison because both are just absolutely elite
16
at doing it.
By the way, there's your answer.
There is some growing unrest in Chapel Hill, Cole. There's maybe some buyer's remorse from some UNC Tar Heel fans as reports are coming out that Bill Belichick requested of an administrator that his girlfriend be included on specific emails and that she has been seen walking around the practice field.
How about that?
Yeah. His girlfriend, Jordan, does not have any contract or form of employment with the university whatsoever, yet she is being involved in high-level team activities.
That's weird. That's weird. By the way, I misspoke. 18 WNBA draftees in the Dawn Staley. That's just wild.
Former Kentucky basketball player Daniel Orton is being accused of violating an emergency protective order by getting too close to a victim that had previously put one on him. Orton, now 34, played for Kentucky from 2009 to 2010 and was charged with violating the EPO on Saturday. Colorado will retire the numbers of Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter during the spring game, and a lot of people are up in arms about this.
Of course
it's a little too early on it. Maybe they're thinking they're doing it because it's just Deion's kid, and they're doing it to make Deion happy. Early, yeah. Undeserved, no. I mean, these two by themselves, along with Deion, resurrected college football.
I'll tell you this. I'm just surprised that Colorado knows what a jersey retirement is. Like, do they even know what that means, where to put the jersey retirement? What is that? Who have they retired? Who's played there that's worth a crap? No, I think they do. I think they do deserve it.
Who was the quarterback for Colorado back when they won the national championship? Ended up having a big NFL career.
Got me on that one.
Bryce Harper. Cole, this is actually great news. Bryce Harper found out that he and his wife are having a baby boy via an on-field in-game gender reveal in which his teammate, Trey Turner, walked out with 2 custom baseball bats, one painted pink, one painted blue, and that was going to signify what the baby's gender was. He faked handing him the pink one and then said, nope, you're having a baby boy. Swing away with this blue bat.
I saw that video this morning, man. That's cool. That is really cool. The blue bat, was it a blue torpedo bat, by the way? I need to know. Does that mean it's going to be a torpedo baby? Really cool there by you said it was Bryce Harper, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
Thank you, Dan B. That was Cordell Stewart was the name that I was trying to pull out of the ether in that split second. Next season is going to feature a big-time regular season out-of-conference matchup in college basketball between Purdue and Alabama. The game is going to be played in Tuscaloosa. They've played twice. Purdue has won both, and both are expected to be top 10 teams next year.
How about that?
This one's here for you, Cole. 8-time Pro Bowl offensive lineman Tyron Smith has re-signed with the Cowboys so that he could retire as a Cowboy.
He should be. He's Hall of Famer. I mean, just one of the best offensive linemen ever. I like that a lot.
And last one here for you. Tulane has publicly reported that they have decided to pull out of the pursuit of quarterback Nico Iamaleava. Not that they really stood a chance of getting him, but they are now adding to themselves to the list of teams no longer interested in him after his exit from Tennessee. The only reason I think they were, maybe considered an option if they wanted to be seen seriously as a expansion candidate for bigger conferences down the road. If you're willing to spend the kind of money to go get Nico, then you're saying we're here to play on a big time scale.
Yeah, it's interesting. Diesel, before we run to a break, I do want to share this picture. It's going to be off my phone, so the stream, it's not going to be the best quality, but how about this? Opening night of the Hub City Spartanburgers, right in Spartanburg. Mm-hmm. I was just sent this picture from a friend of mine, and it is the ballpark in the background with a Coca-Cola that has my name on it. It's usually the other way around, people saying my name, but are saying Coke instead on text. But pretty cool there. For those out there heading that way, let us know. Be sure to tag us in some pictures this evening. On the other side, this is going to be a lot of fun. We're joined by Mark Hodge, the head football coach of the Spartanburg Vikings. Why, you ask? Well, you'll find out next. A couple of days ago, I reached out to one of our local coaches here in the Upstate, Coach Mark Hodge, after a couple of tweets were sent out by Coach Mark Hodge, and I wanted to bring him on the show to talk about what's happening right now. I was going to use the word fun segment coming up, but I don't know if Coach Hodge would consider this, what we're about to talk about, a lot of fun. But I will start by reading, Coach, your tweet that you sent out on April 13th. That said, in the coming days, I'll share details of the research and multiple proposal developments that have occurred over the past 3 to 4 years, including the high school league not only refusing to meet with the Coaches Association and the medical advisory group, but the commissioner also canceling meetings. So we're joined live by Mark Hodge, the head football coach at Spartanburg. A lot to unpack here, Coach. Number one, appreciate you taking time to hop on with us to explain this a little bit more in depth. But for those out there listening in Spartanburg, Greenville, in the Upstate tonight that may not be up to speed, could you kind of set the table on what you have unveiled in the last few days on Twitter?
Working on it, Coach. Sorry about that. We were
working on your audio.
Quite 100% set up there. That's our bad.
Well, Coach, can you hear us, Coach? He can't hear us, but he said we had this problem a couple of days ago, a couple of weeks ago with Landon Powell Diesel. Remember it? I don't know. Let's see. Let's try one more thing here. Coach, keep talking for us. I'm going to scroll through some options here. All right, I'm going to, Coach, we'll have to bring you on the phone lines, which is okay.
We're going to call you. Stand by. We'll have you on here in less than 30 seconds.
Diesel,
Coach.
I'm going to blame this on – no, I'm not going to blame it on you. I don't know what – every now and then, for whatever reason, we have this problem, but it happened a couple of weeks ago. Remember with Landon Powell?
It did, yeah. It happened there, and, you know, as the show was getting started earlier today, I was having a little bit of a wonky problem with trying to listen to some audio through the board as well. So maybe there's something deeper going on that we're not entirely sure of. But, Coach, we're calling you on the phone. I'm going to go ahead and boot you from the studio so that you can join us on the phone. And I know we're trying to get him on. Yeah, we're trying to get Coach on. You know, it's the joys of live radio, man. Sometimes the production doesn't work 100% the way that you want it to do, but there's a workaround the old-fashioned way over the telephone.
You gotta love technology. You gotta absolutely love it, Coach. Sorry about that. We got you now. Can you hear us? Okay.
Yeah, I might have found the problem. It might have been on my end, honestly.
Well,
I checked on something.
It's all good. Either way, we're glad to have you on. Want to start off, Coach, by reading the tweet. I read it already. The audience heard it. You heard it. But for those that are not aware, can you just kind of set the table on what's happened and transpired in the tweets that you've sent out over the last couple of days?
Yeah, it all goes back to, I think it's 2015. We used to have the 8-quarter rule in South Carolina, and it got kicked out. You know, could no longer do it. Had to do with some things that came from the National Federation. It had to do with the concussion movie, a couple of things that were going on. Actually, some coaches were really cheating and taking advantage of the rule, and so they just threw it out. And so it went from 8-quarter opportunity. Those that don't know what that means is kids could actually dress out and play a Thursday JV game, sub-varsity game, and then turn around and dress again for the Friday game. And the point was for emergency situations, things of that nature. But, you know, at the end of the day, they ended up throwing it out. Well, it's been a major topic since with the Coaches Association, the Football Coaches Association, because there wasn't really any conversation or really any oversight to it. It was just we had a rule and then we no longer had a rule. And so it's been a major topic since that time. And then in 2021, we actually decided to do some research and figure out, you know, some medical research and some logistical research to figure out if there was anything else that we could do. And so myself and a couple of coaches from the Football Coaches Association started meeting and communicating with a member of the Medical Advisory Committee. And there's a state's Medical Advisory Committee, Sports Medical Advisory Committee, that's referred to as SMAC. That's got doctors and trainers and, you know, doctors from Clemson and South Carolina and from local places and things of that nature. And we started studying a lot of things, not just, the 8-quarter possibilities, but, it was looking at climatization and multiple other things, calendars. And so in the process, we started trying to meet with the Football Coaches Association and the Sports Medical Advisory Committee and the High School League. And one of the members, which was a trainer of the Medical Advisory Committee, actually set up a meeting with all of us. And we were getting ready to actually have it. And then the High School League canceled it. And, we tried multiple times to get this meeting, and because we felt like we needed all the parties at the table to discuss health and regulations and safety and different things going on with football. And there were some mistakes made during COVID, and I know a lot of people made mistakes during COVID because, few to none of us had experience in a pandemic. And part of it was because not all the professional bodies were at the table when we were coming up with regulations and guidelines. And so we were really pushing this, like, the football coaches understand the logistics of football programs and football practices and operations. Obviously, the doctors understand the health and wellness aspect of it, and the league office understands different things that they deal with legislation and other things. And so we felt like, let's bring all of us to the table and see, are there ways we can make high school football safer and better in South Carolina? And honestly, speaking for the Football Coach Association, we felt like this was a no-brainer and simple and something that needed to be done. And the doctors actually agreed because they agreed to the meeting. But for some reason, our high school league didn't feel it was important. And so we ended up with one big proposal. And now, when I say that, they were actually members of the league that actually did help. They were trying to guide a little bit, and they were trying to, have you thought about this and have you looked at that? So as we were giving proposals, we were getting some positive feedback, but we had a go-between. And one thing that happens when a go-between occurs is there's filters of information. And there may be some things that weren't shared that we wanted shared, or questions asked that we wanted to ask weren't asked, and vice versa. So you started bringing up transparency and questions of that, and we still couldn't understand why you wouldn't all come to the table to discuss this. And so at the end of the day, what we actually we broke down one huge proposal into three. One was a 6-quarter, which was actually allow kids to play the JV game and then be available for emergency situations in the second half of a Friday game. Then we also wrote a proposal for injury tracking system for the high school league, because the league typically gets their injury data from the National Federation, and the National Federation gets their information from what they call a Rio study. Well, the last time, when we were working on this initially, the last data they had was from 2019. Well, that was 98 schools across the nation. So it was, roughly less than 2 schools per nation, or per state was actually given data. And then the thing about that is that data is not specific to South Carolina. When you start talking about the Washington State or Delaware or Louisiana, you got different climates, you got different things going on. So you had this random data that was being used to drive medical decisions. So with today's technology, think Google Forms, we were like, well, the state of South Carolina ought to put in their own medical tracking, and where you send in catastrophic information or surgery-based injuries, so we could actually use that information to help drive our decisions, our state decisions based upon health and safety. And it was for all sports. It wasn't just for football, it was for every sport. And then the other part was we found that South Carolina did not have a mercy rule in football. And so then we proposed a mercy rule too. Now, we also learned a lot. We met with doctors, I met with concussion specialists, I met with the guy that's in charge of the Virginia Tech helmet studies. We met with, NFL trainers and doctors. We met with a bunch of people, so we learned a whole bunch of things. But what we actually did is we kind of missed the deadline with the high school league for the proposals, but they took them anyway because we missed the straw poll from the actual body at the spring administrators conference. Well, what happened was the 6-quarter rule was kicked out because the medical advisory committee, which we were not allowed to meet with, didn't support it. The injury tracking system was kicked out, and don't know why. but they did pass the mercy rule, so we at least got one part going. And so at this point in time, we just went through the season, and then we at Spartanburg High School actually turned in a proposal for a new constitutional amendment to be put in that actually had to do with transparency. And of course, right now the league's got different committees. They got executive committee. The executive committee has been broken down into some subcommittees. And then they'll actually get other committees to research different things, but it's not common knowledge. Like, you don't know exactly, who's on what committee. And so we wrote a proposal that all committees on the league need to be on the actual league website. So, executive committee members and their subcommittees that they're on there, in any committee that they were using to, research or look for different things, be on there, and not only be on the website, but also to have recommendations from the committees, and then also have really the big thing is roll call votes. So once votes were made, you actually knew who voted for what. Basically, the democratic processes. If you go look at the South Carolina .gov, it shows you, how our actual legislator, whatever committee they're on, whatever vote they're doing is public knowledge, and we asked for that. Well, that was denied and wasn't put into place either. And so we kicked back up, working on these proposals, and the president of the Football Coaches Association officially requested again to meet with the Medical Advisory Committee and the High School League, and we got it approved. And so we're all excited in January. So, all right, we get something done this time. Well, I was actually sitting in the airport in Dallas, and I got a phone call saying that the commissioner now canceled that meeting and would not reschedule it, would not allow us to meet with the medical group.
Wow.
And so I was very aggravated by this because, basically we're involved with one of the most dangerous sports out there. And, unfortunately it is dangerous, and have one of the largest, number of participants. And we're trying to meet with the doctors and the league for best practices. And our commissioner is refusing to do it. And they're basically telling us that they have league officers who communicate with the medical group, and that basically we give our information to them, and then they'll pass it on as the go-between. Still, you're not bringing all professional entities to the table. And so we didn't accept that, and talked to some legislators, and actually talked to South Carolina Medical Association. And then a couple of days later, the chair of the Sports Medical Advisory Committee actually called and reached out. Great guy. Everybody on the medical advisory are very, very good people. They're very sports oriented, obviously, and some of them are, like I say, the doctors at Clemson and Carolina and other places. And the chair actually, father was a high school football coach, and he played college football, so they're very football friendly. And so they agreed to meet and said that, felt like it was something that needed to be done. And well, the league decided that we could meet, but they weren't going to join the league, the conversation. And so they were actually meeting on Zoom at this time. And so because they meet with the high school league a couple times a year, and so the meeting was scheduled in April. And so I had to actually sit in the waiting room on Zoom while the league did their work with the medical advisory committee. And then when it's my turn to come in on behalf of Football Coaches Association, I got patched in, but the league then left the meeting. Yeah. So, and I've been sitting on this for a few years now, and I finally got tired of sitting on it. We got a lot of things going on in the league right now, and I feel like the league is salvageable. To be honest with you, that's what I've done in my career. Like, every job I've taken was a job that wasn't in the great spot, and some of it at no fault to the person before us. But so I look at things as how can we analyze where we are and then fix things. And so for them to not be a part of these conversations was very frustrating, not only as a coach but as a father.
So Mark, let me jump in here and ask you this question. For the administration of something like this, is that would you have to create positions and create people essentially create jobs and add expense to the South Carolina High School League to administer something like this? Or is this something that current personnel could already be administering? I'm wondering if that may be part of the reason why they chose not to come to the table on this. Why do you think it is that they've essentially, played keep away and not allowed you to be a part of that conversation?
Well, when people aren't transparent, they only know the reason they're not being transparent. And in our business, we understand that, the more you can be transparent, obviously the more you can learn. But it would not have taken any more personnel because, again, the league was actually on this meeting and then got off the meeting. So the same person that was on the meeting could have stayed on the meeting. They have since actually added a position at the league office that actually deals with health and wellness. And so obviously this person could be a part of some of the things that we're trying to do like now, like even the current, because we keep proposing the injury tracking system because it literally takes 45 seconds and it would go straight to the league office and, they could actually come up with a big aggregate of data, of data that could actually, help drive some of our medical decisions, but for whatever reason, they don't feel like they need to do it. But so, to answer your question, it didn't take any more manpower. It just took staying on the call. But then we have a great conversation. I really feel bad for the medical advisory committee because they're helping. They want to be involved, but they also don't want to be in the middle of a tug of war between ancillary sports committees and the high school league. And so, I really put myself out by putting some of this stuff out here the last couple of days because I hope the medical advisory committee understands how appreciative we are of them and how much that we desire their opinions and their inputs. And we're not trying to bring them into the middle of anything. We're just state facts right now.
Coach, it's interesting. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It's interesting when you talk about these issues with the 8-quarter rule, obviously, and the way it used to be, the league meeting, the legislation, NIL, obviously, and its future with high school football. In your mind, when all of these hot topics presented at the table in the world, in the modern world of high school football, especially in college athletics, we see everything trickling down. What in your mind is holding us back from reaching some of these goals, some of these things that you've brought to the table? What is it that's keeping us away from being where we need to be in your mind?
Well, I think ultimately it comes down to leadership, transparency. I'll give you some examples. Like, we had great conversations. The medical group told us exactly, what they would approve and not approve and why they wouldn't approve. And it came down to exposures. Exposures are basically how many opportunities for a child to, potentially be injured, and they would not approve anything greater than a normal varsity game, which made sense, and so that's where we came back and, did the 4-quarter split, which was basically a kid could play one half of a JV game, but then be available for the second half of a varsity game if you needed them for, backup situations or things of that nature. And that's so important for the development of kids because, we've had kids that's actually had to see it and not get to play. And then if you don't develop, then you don't play as fast, and that can lead to injuries too. So there's a lot of things they shared with us, and we were able to, create new proposals. Well, to answer your question is what then happens is we follow appropriate protocols. We get the straw poll. The straw polls actually is basically each school gets to vote whether they want it or not. And we had over 70% of the schools that actually wanted it. And so give you an example how the executive committee works is there is a representative for each classification. Well, 4A was 100%. 41 out of 41 schools wanted it. Well, the 4A representative didn't vote for it. So how is that democratic?
Yeah.
Well, we also know that, you can watch the high school league executive committee meetings, but what's only on there is the meeting. What's not on there is the meeting before the meeting, or the meeting after the meeting. And so we know that there's a lot of league conversations, and this is frustrating too because the league will tell you we don't drive policy. Well, that's very much not true. They just passed three recommendations last week that were actually proposed by the league, and the league also created a couple committees. Like the transfer committee. Well, the league dictated who was on that committee and what was being done. So they do drive policy. It's just they pick and choose which policies that they engage in. And obviously this helped in football when they chose not to be in. And so when you got situations like that, that's why we have problems like we have, because when 100% of an actual classification votes for something, but then the representative votes against it, that's not the body is in charge of what's actually happening within the league. And so those are things that's got to be addressed, and those are things that's actually got to be, and I don't mean it's wrong, but most of those people on executive committees or principals or superintendents or people of that nature, they're really not as versed on this information that they're voting on as, the body who's actually voting. And that's part of our fault as well. Like, we need to do a better job of letting the information come from us and not come from the league office. But, those are major examples of why, there's not a lot of transparency, and then there's issues like that occur that shows you the democratic process is not truly democratic.
Coach, can you hang with us through this 2.5-minute break and dive right back into it? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Coach. Mark Hodge continued on the other side. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryce, and this is the Fan Upstate. We are enthralled in a big-time conversation with Mark Hodge, head football coach at Spartanburg High School, involved with the High School Coaches Association board as well. Coach, we've talked a lot of who's coming to the table, who's operating in good faith so far through this interview. I want to know from you, what can you tell me about the nuts and bolts and how this affects teams and their abilities to schools and their abilities to field teams, whether it be from, lack of enough player personnel to field both a varsity and a JV team? Is this something in your mind that probably affects the 1A, 2A schools more than it does
the 3A, 4As. I know you said that there's not a database for collecting information statewide on medical issues, but from your experience, what can you tell me about how it affects high school's ability to field both JV and varsity?
Yeah, it hurts, and it hurts every level. Go back to Chapman when Colton was quarterback. McKaylee was the backup because we had to have a backup. And, so McKaylee didn't really get to play at all his sophomore year because all the games were close and came down to the wire. So you got a kid that didn't get to develop, and kids want to play and you want to be able to play, but unfortunately coaches get fired and you got to have backups. And so you put yourself in a tough situation. And then, there's actual rule right now that you could actually play JV on a Monday, which I'm for because, I have a staff that's big enough to do that. And that because we have a lot of Thursdays that, are super late and then Friday super late. But when I was at Carolina, I had 6 coaches. We couldn't do that because it would affect our varsity practice. And the way we practice on Thursday, we actually let our kids recover. Well, you wouldn't be able to do that because your staff would have to go to the sub-varsity game on Monday, and then you would now have to move your 3-day practices to Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So there's a lot of issues that, affect all levels there. And so, what ends up happening is, for backup purposes, some teams have actually had to cancel sub-varsity games. Which means kids aren't getting to play. And then that kid that is an emergency backup, he's not getting to play. And so they're not getting to play, 1, and 2, they're not developing. And that leads to all kind of issues, health and experience and other as you move down the line. And then at Chapman, we couldn't get kids out of the game. In 19, we actually only 2 games actually went into the fourth quarter, but we calculated we had 6 offensive linemen. We calculated with Dr. Lucas about 250 extra exposures that they had because we couldn't take them out. We didn't have anybody to sub for them.
Coach, it's interesting. Last question on this whole 4-quarter, 8-quarter rule, and we'll move on to a couple other topics we have. But I'm going to ask a very plain, dumbed down question because this is, is my brain operates. It's a why. I always ask the why in terms of something not being able to get done. And for those that just tuned in, we're talking to Mark Hodge, the head football coach at Spartanburg High School, about some recent developments in the past couple of years with the high school league and their inability to cooperate with Coaches Association and other organizations out there. Coach, when you talk about doing the right thing, getting the right things done, I know earlier you answered with leadership and no transparency. Deep down, underneath the lack of transparency in the leadership at the high school league office, can you give a why as to why we're in the situation that we're in?
No, honestly, things start happening, and if you don't recognize that there's issues, or you may not think there's an issue. What I think is an issue, some other person may not think is an issue. Things end up where they are, oftentimes unchecked, and so that's kind of how things happen. But it's also very, litigation is something that's always in the back of somebody's mind. Somebody's always worried about who's going to be sued and who's going to be offended. So that's heavily in a lot of decisions in the league. And when we talk about the 4-quarter, 6-quarter, all that stuff, that's stuff we take very seriously because we're talking about the health and wellness of athletes. And you got to be very cautious not to make a wrong decision that puts a child at risk. And so there's a lot of things that go into decisions like this. And so if you're not willing to engage in all these things, sometimes you may err on the side of caution. Sometimes you may err on the side of not being sued. Sometimes you may err on the side of being hard-headed. And a lot of those things come into play when you don't allow everybody to check everybody.
Talking with Mark Hodge, Spartanburg Vikings head coach. We've had the pleasure of bringing on Scott Early, executive director of the South Carolina High School Athletic Coaches Association, about a month ago when there was proposed legislation to replace the South Carolina high school leagues. I don't want to put you in a position where you have to speak against somebody you may be on the same side of, but in your mind, being that the South Carolina high school leagues have shown themselves to be obtuse in your attempts to have transparent conversations with them, what is this? How does this affect your support or lack thereof in a change in how South Carolina high school athletics are administered?
Well, I don't want the athletics an athletic association to be governed by politics. Right now you have a bill written, why did they write the bill? Who's behind the bill? And, what's the purpose for it? Because you start getting politics, and what you're going to get the counter side. It's just making wrote a bill, and you're eventually going to get Democrats going to write a counter bill. And now we're playing legislative ping pong in high school athletics, and I don't think that's a good thing. I do like the fact right now that our league is set up to be governed by the body. It's got, good bylaws, good constitution. And we just got to be transparent with those things, transparent with the votes, transparent with the committees, committee dates, and then follow the democratic processes of, if I'm representing this group asks for such, then I need to vote on behalf of my group. And I think if you do those things, then, there's really no need for it to be taken over. It just, transparency and democratic processes and bringing, the parties that need to be at the table. And somebody listening may say, well, that party didn't need to be. Well, we are the professionals in football. When you ask Spartanburg District 7 who is the lead professional in football, they're going to say the head football coach. And so we need to be at the table when you're discussing football type things, because we are the experts in said field, but bring all the experts together and you'll get at least the best attempt to get it right.
Sure. No, I'm with you. Coach, two recent decisions that have transpired within the high school league, state championships, obviously some site changes there, and then the biggest one, the one-time transfer rule. Your thoughts on that, and if it's going to benefit the direction that we're trying to get to in terms of making this better for everyone involved?
The transfer rule, to begin with, I think is a good thing, honestly, and I'll explain that. But I think it's been kind of like the transfer rule in college. Like, it's been thrown out there, but it hasn't had enough time to grow and to breathe and actually come up with, what if this happens, what if that happens, and correct protocol. So I think early on you're going to see a bunch of transfers. I think a year from now, you're going to see a bunch of people that made some mistakes and are going to be stuck. But I like the one time for this reason right here is, where we currently are is you go to school where you're zoned. In Spartanburg District 7, there's only one high school, so you only have one choice. You take that to Greenville, where it's almost 20 high schools. Well, they figured out basically how to manipulate the system a little bit, and they got 20 choices. And so kids in Greenville County, when you start getting into academies and things like that, they have 20 opportunities to go to school. In Spartanburg District 7, you technically have one. And, being here playing in the highest level, I sometimes have children that are great kids. They're, they do everything you ask them to do, but they're third or fourth on the depth chart. And, I think kids like that deserve an opportunity to actually play the game. And if transferring allows them to play the game, I think they deserve that opportunity. And, sometimes you just have personality conflicts. Like, things just don't match. And so, I think a one-time transfer, it could actually be good for students. But then you start running into recruiting, and you start running into loopholes, and you start running into just problems that they haven't worked through. Like, one major one right now in Spartanburg County is you have what's got out of district fees, because every kid gets a per pupil expenditure from the state. And let's make it simple numbers. Let's say every kid's getting $4,000, that's not the number, but every kid gets $4,000 from the state of South Carolina. Well, local taxes, District 7, they may raise $4,000. So a kid at District 7 may be getting $8,000. And again, these numbers are not correct. I'm just using simple numbers. Well, say in another district in Spartanburg County, let's say District B, they actually are raising $3,000 in taxpayer money. And then another district is raising $5,000 in taxpayer money. What that means is if a kid is not in your district and they transfer in, they do out of district fees. And so to come to Spartanburg A, you may have to pay $3,000 to cover the local tax deficit. To go to Spartanburg B, you may have to pay $5,000. Go to Spartanburg C, you may have to pay $8,000. And then go to Spartanburg D, they waive it and let you come for free. Well, if you're transferring, which one are you going to? And so those are things that they haven't thought through. And this rule that's supposed to be, for equity and is actually potentially going to bring another lawsuit or bring another bill written, because the districts that don't charge obviously are going to have a leg up on the districts that do charge. So there's a lot there. And then you start talking about waivers, and you get 10. Well, who gets 10? Does football get 10? Does the whole athletic department get 10 waivers? Does the band get 10 waivers? Does, we got one of the best drama departments in the state. Does drama get 10 waivers? Is this child trying to transfer so a year later they can be valedictorian? You just got all kind of things that really haven't been worked through. But this rule goes into effect come July 1st.
Coach Hodge, that's interesting. We're talking to Mark Hodge, Spartanburg Vikings head coach. The conversation that we're having there are all the same conversations that we were having about college athletics 3, 4, or 5 years ago. Would states start implementing certain tax breaks and loopholes, or conferences start doing these sorts of things to give schools recruiting advantages over one another? And then, how are we going to navigate that whole thing? Can you give me an idea of where NIL is in high school athletics in the state of South Carolina? And, with as much of a mess as the NCAA has made of NIL by completely taking their hands off of the wheels, is there a chance in your mind for not only South Carolina, but all states or each individual state to try to implement something that has some teeth and backbone and that is actually more fair for everyone?
Well, honestly, there really didn't need to be any NIL legislation to begin with, especially in high school. Now, obviously, I think there needs to be in college, because that thing's going crazy. But in high school, it's basically a part-time job. Let's say that almost use Raheem Jeter. Say Vic Bailey Ford at one time wanted to pay Raheem Jeter to be a model. Well, what's to say he couldn't? I mean, it's a part-time job. Any other student in Spartanburg High School can be paid by Vic Bailey to be a model on their billboard. So, there was really no need for any NIL regulation, because, if that's what Vic Bailey was willing to do to Raheem and they felt like it was going to help drive sales, then, that was his prerogative and that was their prerogative. And, there was really no rule against any of that. So we basically have almost talked up a rule that's really not a need for a rule. And so I have been told that there's potential legislation that's going to kind of ban NIL in South Carolina. You never know what that's going to do. The question I have is, if it is legal, one, did we need it? But two is, what's happening in other states is where NIL is legal is kids are starting to get agents at the high school level. Well, then what happens? If a kid's got an agent, are they still an amateur? They still keep their amateur status? Can they still play? So there's a lot of things out there that I'm not sure a lot of people have really thought all the way through. And, so I think they need to be careful because I do, if Vic Bailey wants to pay a Dorman kid or Spartanburg kid or whatever, that's their business. But if you're not careful with NIL stuff now, that's just opening up a whole other can of worms of recruiting, because, we've now got a booster club that's working out these modeling contracts is what they ultimately are for this player. And, if you come over here, you can get one, whereas this school doesn't offer it. So huge can of worms.
Yeah. Coach, we've talked about a lot, the 8-quarter rule, medical groups, NIL, transfer rule. We've seen all this in a way trickle down from the college level as well. As a high school coach, and I don't know I do know the reason that you got into coaching. I've heard you talk about it many times. A lot of other coaches out there also get into coaching to impact and mold young men and better them as young men, right? For that group, for that category of coaches who came into coaching with the right intentions, is what's going on right now, is it alarming?
Yes, and it's very difficult too, because, and I guess a lot of it is when you're raised and how things were as you came up. When I came up, Chris Miller was my high school football coach, and, he was basically like another father. And, my parents actually divorced when I was in high school, and Coach Miller was a voice of reason and comfort and a father figure for me, not just through high school, but after high school and then even in my professional career. And, so I got to learn by watching him care for me and my other coaches, my position coaches, Jimmy Anderson and all those guys that, you know, really poured into me and a community. You know, then I got to work for, you know, Bill Owens and Doc Davis, and it was all, we're here to pour into this community and these kids. Well, over the past 30 years, it kind of followed college athletics, which is, it does. I mean, everything kind of, it all trickles down from the NFL. And so, I mean, if you look at the weight facilities now and the training and the schemes and the facilities, like it's all just trickles down. And so if you're a younger coach, you've actually come through with transfer issues and with NIL and with, you know, more chaoses and so that's kind of what you know. And so you've got almost three different groups of coaches. Coaches are kind of on the back end of my career like me, coaches in the middle, and then you got coaches that are starting, and all of us kind of came through with different philosophies of high school athletics. And so, you know, that's why you do get different, I guess, perspectives and different opinions.
Something we have seen, you know, really take place in college athletics over the last 3-4 years tops at most there. We've seen a lot of coaches who have been head coaches leaving those positions to be assistants on other staffs. And I know that certainly stretches a lot of high school budgets really thin to say, let's open up a full-time position and pay what a former sitting head coach would want to come and take this job. In your mind, do you foresee that happening in high school athletics here in South Carolina? You know, somebody like you, for example, who's been around for a while, kind of operating in a CEO role and hiring on somebody who has coached as a younger guy who's dealt with, you know, some of the more chaos to sort of compartmentalize, deal with the NIL stuff, deal with the transferring part of the game. Do you foresee something like that here?
Potentially, especially if all this passes and it happens, you know, because it's hard enough to do your job now. You know, you having to worry about recruiting your own kids and everything else to begin with. And, you know, I've tried to hire, when I first started hiring, I hired people that were great at things I wasn't good at. Then I started trying to hire people that were great at things I felt I was great at so I could grow and learn. And, you know, tried to hire some head coaches and coordinators to help grow and lead and be able to pass off everything that happens behind this desk. And, you know, you start talking about NIL and transfers and making sure you're not breaking rules, you know. And that's the other thing, like, to be frank with you, you know, me stepping out, putting my neck out on the line, I got to make sure we don't break any rules here, because I know there's a microscope on Spartanburg High School right now because I opened my mouth. But, and so you almost need somebody that's just in that position. And then here we do grades and we do all kind of other monitoring, and you know, we have a mental health counselor on staff and other things. And so, you know, really to keep up with the times, you actually need positions to help keep up with the times.
Yeah, it's really deep. Coach, listen, we appreciate you taking this much time to talk with us. I know it's a lot to unpack, but you certainly did a fantastic job. And you know what? I'm with you. I don't know what high school athletics will be 15, 20 years from now, but I do appreciate those like you who are in it for the right reasons, because you know, I've been impacted as well and know what kind of impact a lot of the younger people need. And just appreciate you, and thank you for talking with us. And I'm sure in the future there will be more to talk about, so we'll have you on again soon.
Absolutely, anytime. I appreciate it and appreciate what you guys do.
Mark Hodge, the head football coach at Spartanburg. Again, a lot to unpack. We don't have the time to unpack everything that he talked about, because it was such fascinating information. And again, you said it, Diesel, we're having the same conversation in high school as we are college. And to his point, everything trickles down.
Yep.
It's sad.
You hope that it doesn't dissuade young prospective coaching talent from
100%.
wanting to get into the game. I mean,
it's going to, though.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to force an additional complexity to all of these staffs to be able to handle all of these things. You know, a lot of people who finish playing, they want to go right into coaching because it keeps them involved with the game that they love. But certainly, man, this might give you a reason for thinking, I don't know, I've seen the way my coach has had to handle all of this, and maybe I'll just go off into the private sector instead.
Yeah, and you know what, man, what it all boils down to for me, there's so much happening. There's so much coming down the pipe. If we as a state of South Carolina had strong leadership in place, I wouldn't be worried. I'd say, hey, look, we're in good hands. You know, we're going to be okay. We're going to do the right thing. This state's going to do the right thing. However, I can't say that. I can't say that confidently. I don't know. Nobody really knows with the leadership and, to his point, the lack of transparency that's been going on for a very long time now. So it's definitely concerning, to say the least. But again, thanks to Mark Hodge for joining us. That was some really good stuff there. We'll put a bow on the Tuesday show next. Well, let me try that again. Didn't have the right button pushed.
It happens.
It happens. I want to say thanks to Mark Hodge for joining us the last two segments. Really good stuff there. Also want to say congratulations to the city and the people of Spartanburg. We now have baseball back in Spartanburg. The Hub City Spartanburgers' first game at Fifth Third Park is already underway. Diesel, and just like that, man, baseball's back. I'm going to try to swing over there. It'll be probably 7:30 or so before I get there. But, man, I'm so excited, and I know the people of Spartanburg are as well.
Yeah, I ran into JJ out in the hallway.
Yeah.
Who our Tolos are hopefully going to get a good chance to get to know over the next couple of weeks and months. He's going to be filling in and running the board over here some. He's fantastic. He was out there earlier today. Cole,
really?
I just got back, and he was saying the crowd out there is already starting to fill in. And he said it's looking really nice.
That's awesome.
It's awesome to hear. Congratulations, Spartanburg. Hopefully get that first home dub,
Yes.
Start off your brand new ballpark with a win. Can we do that?
I'd love
Spartanburgers.
Would absolutely love it.
Tolos will be back with you tomorrow. A lot of stuff happening. As a matter of fact, the transfer portal opens tomorrow. That's going to be a big topic of conversation right here on the Fan Upstate.